What's up, everybody? We are live. Happy Saturday. How's everybody doing tonight? We're going to drink some Laphroaig. I got a bunch of Laphroaigs lined up. We're going to be joined by Mike from Mike's Whiskey Reviews. He's going to bring a couple of Laphroaigs to the table, and we are going to talk Laphroaig, drink Laphroaig, chat Laphroaig, all that good stuff. So the table, and we are going to a little bit of feedback already. Great. All right, it looks like we should be all set. I'm going to warm things up a little bit with some this is Compass Box. Which Compass Box is this now? This is the Glasgow Street? No, I'm sorry. This is a Great Artist Blend. This is a pretty good one. It's a great warm-up whiskey. It's kind of got a little bit of everything, a little bit of grain note, a little bit of bourbon cask, good palate setter, 43%. Samuel Cast 1 is nuts. Hey, how's it going, Sam? Thanks for joining. Mike should be joining in with us pretty soon here. I'm going to just check, make sure he got the email all set to go, which it looks like he does. Awesome. So we'll get him we'll get him into the chat here, into the video stream in just a second. I think I just saw him popping into the queue. Awesome. Samuel Cast 1. And here's Mike. Mike, hello. Can you hear us, buddy?
I can hear you. How's it going, guys?
Hey, good. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Just throwing the iPhone into the tripod. So give me a second here where I get this set up.
Yeah, sure, man.
And then we ready to roll.
We got a couple folks in here already. Samuel Cast 1 is in here from Arizona. He's already commenting on the Laphroaig Cairdeas Triple Wood, which I know.
I tell you what, man, that Triple Wood Cairdeas, I was really impressed by. I was not a fan of the normal 48% Cairdeas, or excuse me, normal 48% Triple Wood. But I found the pheno cask and the Triple Wood right beside it, so I decided to take a chance. I'm glad I did. It was an excellent, excellent bottle.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. When we were talking about this, I think it was right after you had posted your review of the Cairdeas 2019, and spurred the idea of maybe getting together and sipping some Laphroaigs tonight, which would be a lot of fun. And you've done a couple different Laphroaig whiskey reviews that I've seen so far. And you said, we were chatting a little bit earlier, you said you've been drinking or getting into Laphroaigs for quite some time, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Laphroaig, probably my second love right behind Lagavulin. So got into it early. They have been a regular contributor on my whiskey review channel. I've done a normal 43% 10, a couple of cask strength 10s, 15, 18, 25, a couple Cairdeases, the Triple Wood, the pheno cask, but man, and the quarter cask. But I love Laphroaig, have yet to have a bad one. Although I will say I've never tried Select.
Yeah, that's funny you mentioned that. I've had a sample of the Select, and the Select, the one sample I had, it wasn't the worst thing I tasted because it did have some of that nice peaty punch to it, but definitely not a whiskey I would go back to. I mean, why spend 35, 40 on that when you can spend 40, 45 on the Laphroaig? Oh, he's going for the 25. Nice. Which 25?
I'm getting them poured. This 25 is it's 52% ABV, so this would be the 2018 bottling, which is no sherry, all bourbon cask maturation. Nice. But I got to tell you, some of the other ones have, Oloroso sherry cask, but they're all pretty similar. So, yeah, regardless of what year you have, I'm gonna do that. And then my second pour, I'm gonna get a few ready here for us, is gonna be the green label,
great
Laphroaig 18, which is the exact same as the white tube one. I think this is the first year they had them, and then they kind of changed them around. I think you were rolling with the white tube tonight, huh?
Yeah, I'll roll through them. Actually, right when you're done introducing what's on your table today.
Okay, so I started out with my two best hitters. We're going down in age, but one that is if you just want Laphroaig, but you want Laphroaig scaled back a little bit, this is a great choice. The 15.
15.
And this is the old 15. This is the, I believe it was 2015 for their 200th anniversary. They brought this one. But the thing about this 15-year-old is it's 43% as opposed to the 48 from the 18 and the cask strength of the 10 and the 25. So, again, it's a light Laphroaig and one I like going back to when when it's summertime or maybe I don't want that total Laphroaig punch in the face. And lastly, we are going to take a look at one of my favorites, and I think one of yours too, a cask strength version of the Laphroaig 10. Although I am going to go with the 2011 edition because this is my first bottle of the 2011, and I'm trying to get to know it a little bit better.
Awesome. Did you say 2011?
Or excuse me, the batch 11.
Oh, batch 11. I was going to say
batch 11.
You're really bringing out a heavy hitter. That's one you don't see every day. Now, that's an awesome lineup, Mike. And so to join you on the journey, I am also going to do. I'll start things off with the 25 as well. This one is. Let me get the bottle out of this box here. I'll get this in the glass. So this one, I'm not sure what the year is. This one is bottled at 48.9% ABV, which they do claim as cask strength. This one is Oloroso.
2017.
There you go.
It's 2007. Dude, that was my favorite. That 48.9 is the 2017. It has both Oloroso sherry and bourbon cask maturation, if I'm not mistaken.
Awesome. Yep, it is. It is Oloroso sherry and American oak. So you're absolutely right. I'm going to get some of this in the glass and let it sit for a bit while I tell you about the other ones I'm going to have lined up. All right. To get into this, I haven't had a sip of this one in quite a while, so I'm pretty excited to get into it. I know you said your second pour was going to be the Laphroaig 18 green tube. I will. I'll join you in 18, and I'll do the white tube. So I have a white.
So you will see my white tube, or you will see my green tube, and raise me a white tube. I got it.
It's your white tube. I actually coincidentally also have a green tube there in case we decide we want to get even more comparative with it. But I'm going to do. I'll do that one, and then I also have a bottle of the Laphroaig 15, so I'll be able to enjoy that with you as well. I think this is the same one you have, 43%. This is part of that 200th anniversary edition from what was this, 2016? It's the same one that you probably got.
Yeah, 2015. I think 16 was Lagavulin 200th anniversary, but I might have that backwards.
This is the bottle. I think this is the same one that you just showed. So we'll have that one to go. And actually, I'm going to be opening this for the first time. I have not opened this bottle. I actually got it recently, so this one will be a lot of fun. And I have two others that we'll see which one. So you said you're going to do a cask strength. I may do the 2019 cask strength Cairdeas, the triple wood, and I also have a bottle of Lore. So we'll figure out which one we'll go with there. But so for everybody in the chat, we got a bunch of Laphroaigs lined up. Be curious what's in everybody else's glasses as we get into this. So Samuel Cast 1 says he has the Laphroaig 2014, 25 years old. Have you had that one? Do you know, Mike?
2014. So 2014, I believe, is the black label. I think it's 45.1% ABV. Let me know if I have that right.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, if it's the 45, it's 45.1. If it's the 45.1, yes. As a matter of fact, I have had that one, but it's the only black label I've had because I think like 12, 13, 14, 15, they were all lower ABV.
Oh, interesting. Do you know what year they switched the labels?
I think it was 2016. I mean, don't quote me on that. Definitely 2000. As you know, the 2017. But I'm pretty sure 2016 was the first year of the white label.
That seems about right. Mr. French is here, loving the Laphroaig 15. Jason Fisk's in the house saying, "What's up?" Hey, Jason, nice to have you with us. Daniel says the best I have is the batch 10 Laphroaig CS. Hey, Daniel, I love that one. That was the one from 2018, I believe. The thing I really like about this, and Mike, you probably have noticed this as well, being a fan of all the Laphroaig stuff, is that, you know, in addition to it being at a good price and obviously being a cask strength whiskey with an age statement, you get a lot of batch variation in the Laphroaig 10 cask strength. Like, for example, I thought the batch 10 that Daniel here's talking about was quite different than the batch 11. I thought the batch 11 reminded me more, if you've had it, of the batch 7. It was kind of like the peat was a little bit more in balance with everything. I found it to be kind of a meatier whiskey, but you know, to each his own to some degree. It can be subjective, but I've just noticed that there's a considerable amount of variation, and honestly, I don't think I've had a bad one yet.
No, in a lot of ways, it reminds me of Lagavulin 12. I mean, every year it's a little bit different, but I mean, they're fairly consistent. But there are some years that I do like better than others. Obviously, talk about Lagavulin 12. The 2017 was a really special year. But as far as the Laphroaig 10, I love the batch 10. And then I want to say batch 7 or batch 6 was probably my second favorite. I can't remember which one, but I remember the ABV, oddly enough. It was 59.9% ABV. And that particular one was also a really, really good 10-year-old cask strength.
Yeah. I don't think I've had the batch 6. I've had the batch 7. I have a bottle of the 7, the 8, the 9, the 10, and 11. The 7 was one that I thought I noticed was most unique. I thought it was actually a bit different than the rest. In that, like I said, I think the 11 and the 7 struck me as being a little bit similar. But again, I don't think there's a bad pour in the lot. And it's such a great price. So Daniel, we're totally with you, man. Enjoy that pour.
Yeah, you know, regardless of how much whiskey, you know, how many Laphroaigs I have, I always have, as I mentioned earlier, I always have multiple versions of the 10-year-old. I mean, it's a great whiskey, and the fact that it's usually only about $60-65 here in Columbus, all the better. I mean, that's a whiskey I would pay $120 for. It just happens to be $60.
You're talking about the regular Laphroaig, the straight up regular Laphroaig 10, or are you talking about the cask strength?
Cask strength 10.
Got it. Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. You really can't go wrong with that pour at all. Samuel Cass is drinking the coronavirus away. Jason Fisk's got a white tube 18 kill level. Right on. Cool, man. Cool. Well, we're all caught up on the chat. We got 8 folks in the room already, which is awesome. So this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm about ready to get into this 25. Which can you tell us again, just the rundown on the 25 that you're having?
Yeah, so the 25 that I have poured tonight. Again, this is the 2018 bottling. I was able to get this from Central Wine. They had a really, really good deal on them this past year. It's 52% ABV and bourbon cask maturation only. So just bourbon cask maturation. But you know, all of the Laphroaig 25s have a similar smell. I mean, you're still getting that Laphroaig smokiness, but just like a little bit of that hospital note to where it's so prominent in the 18 and the 10. Yeah. But this 25, man, you're getting actually tropical fruits, which tropical fruits for me, I never thought about having like a fruitier smell in a Laphroaig period until I had this 25. But as you give it more time in the glass, man, that little bit of mango, maybe just a light peach comes up, in my opinion. What do you think?
Interesting. Yeah, I'm about to get in on the nose. So you have the 2018 25-year-old in your glass. So this one, as you said, was the 2017. And this one will be probably a little different because it's Oloroso and bourbon. This is 48.9%, so a little bit less on the ABV. But yeah, I'm going to get into the nose right now. Yeah, wow. So right away on this one, it's interesting. You know, normally with Laphroaigs, I get that heavy dose of like not really. It's like road tar a little bit, right? It's just that really dark asphalty smell. This much more like Band-Aids, antiseptic, medicinal note. Like it's really. It's almost like like burning plastic tennis ball smell on the peat, which I really enjoy. I really only get it out of these older ones. There's also, wow, there's just so much happening in this glass.
Oh yeah, and this is really one where you got to give it time, man. I mean, especially with peated whiskeys, once they get over 20 years old, you know, the peat is still there. It's still the first thing you get.
Yep.
But, you know, the more time you give it, the more that peat kind of subsides, the more that hospital medicinal note sort of fades away. Yeah. I mean, it just kind of rolls into some nice fruity flavors. Now,
absolutely.
Now, agreed, the first thing I'm smelling is your typical Laphroaig. It's lighter than it normally is, but it's still that typical Laphroaig punch in the face smoke. Yeah. But I almost find with this one, my mind just almost blocks it out. I'm going right towards some of the fruitier flavors, or at least trying to find them, because they're in no other Laphroaig. Yeah,
I'm with you on that. And I'm kind of following in the same trajectory you are. after that first couple sniffs where you get just that like, yes, this is a Laphroaig. Now for me, it's like mango, pineapple. There's a slight saltiness to it, but it's mostly like sweet, lightly citrus tropical fruits. Definitely pineapple, definitely maybe peach even.
And yeah, that's what I said. I said mango and peach.
Oh yeah,
those the two
but yeah, it's there. And then it's like a mango thing. There's also, and then behind that is where I get kind of the traditional more bourbony stuff, where it's like slight vanilla, slight caramel, little bit of the oak char, almost like I don't know, what is that, allspice or nutmeg? Maybe just like a little bit of that. But
it is spicy. What I've always called Laphroaig spice, or I've called many times, is like a hot white cinnamon. Like it doesn't go all the way to cinnamon. It's like a white cinnamon, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
But it's warm. It's a very you can almost feel the heat off that spice.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting analogy. The other thing that I pick up on this as I go more is almost like this is going to sound funny. It's kind of like strawberry ice cream, where it's like a creamy strawberry. It's almost like, not like the artificial Jolly Rancher strawberry flavor, but it's almost smells like you just opened up a thing of strawberry ice cream, where it's like slightly sweet, or strawberry shortcake. If you know what I'm talking about there, like the whipped cream strawberry thing. It's really happening on this. Really just like incredible layers on this one, man, for sure.
Yeah, I guess I do get, so sometimes with the Laphroaigs, when they're older, like the Lore had some of this in it, and so did the 21, which they sold in those little half bottles, I think for one of the facial festivals. I do get like a red berry note. I've sometimes said sort of strawberry, and it's kind of hard to pick out, but it seems like the Laphroaigs don't get that note until they get over 20 years old, because it's non-existent in the 18.
That's really interesting. I can't, thinking back on the 18, I just don't get the tropical notes that I get off this. This is more tropical notes than I think I have gotten on any other Laphroaig, which
absolutely,
which makes sense considering, this is, and it's a little bit lined up with yours. Interestingly enough, despite yours being full bourbon and this one also being Oloroso, I'm not picking up as much of kind of your traditional darker fruit, stone fruit notes on this, really. Like I do find that it's more tropical, and it might just be, as this sits in the glass, that'll come through a little bit more, but not a lot of those dark red, dark cherry, which raisin notes that you kind of get sometimes off of Oloroso cherry.
Yeah, no, I have that exact same model.
Yeah.
I actually prefer it to the 2018 just slightly. But that doesn't mean that I get, you mentioned stone fruit. Yeah, any dark fruit I do not get on it whatsoever. Again, I do get a peach, which I believe is still stone fruit, but figs, dates, raisins, not at all on any of these Laphroaigs. It's almost to where I had these things back to back. Or excuse me, I had them just right next to each other. I was going back and forth on the nose. And on the nose, I could almost smell no difference between the 17 and 18. But on the taste, the 17 was sweeter.
That's interesting. I do think in general this one is sweeter than most Laphroaigs that I've had, just off the nose. And it's like lighter and brighter, which is interesting considering the age on it. Most of the time you think old whiskey, you're thinking it's going to be much darker, richer notes, more barrel influence. This one, I think it's almost challenges that assumption a little bit in a good way, in a really good way, because it's not like it's a tropical overcoat or anything. It's very much like these notes are deep and profound, which is what I'm really enjoying off of this nose.
You said a word earlier, bright. And I've never used that word to describe it, but as soon as you said it, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like the bright, it's very, the smell of it is almost light with that side of heavy Laphroaig smoke, if that makes any sense. I mean, and the color of this thing is almost what it's smelling like right now.
Yeah, right, exactly. So interesting.
It's like a spring day.
Yeah. Well, let's give it a sip. Cheers, everybody.
Hey, cheers. Laphroaig 25, 2017 on the other side over there with my man Muse, and 2018 right here. Man, the legs on this thing are incredible. So oily and viscous at cast strength. What an offering. I tell you what, Some places do their 25-year-olds at a high ABV, but not cast strength. I've always been appreciative that Laphroaig went that extra mile and said, you know what, we're bottling it as is.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. No doubt. Wow. This is, yeah, the legs on it, it's an understatement. I mean, you can tell, I don't know if you can see, and this camera does it justice, but holy cow, those are serious. And it delivers on the palate too. Super oily, sticks to every single, inch of your mouth. There's definitely a lot of, it's interesting how it kind of moves in waves. Immediately for me, it was soft on the palate, nice sweet fruit arrival. Then this kind of bitterness and pepper kicks in. And as it goes into the development, it's just like, it almost is like happening in stages that are just very noticeable. And then at the end, it kind of all comes back together. And I'm really left with, surprisingly, again, more of kind of what I would describe as like a bourbon cask finish on this. There's more vanilla, there's more caramel, there's more of like that slight cocoa note, slight coffee note, and then a little bit of tropical fruit in the background. So it's kind of interesting how it shifted where, for me at least on this, it was very much sweet and fruity at the beginning, and then it kind of moved into a place where it was a bit more of a kind of oaky bourbon cask and a finish that is hanging around for a real long time.
Yeah, you're right. The initial arrival is pretty soft. I mean, it's full, but it's soft. I mean, it isn't as punchy as the smell would lead you to believe as far as when it hits your tongue. You're right, a lot of those same fruits. But I got to tell you what, man, for me, as soon as I swallowed, though, that rush of smoke. That rush of smoke that just came right out. And then you're right, it's followed by that vanilla. And, something you said earlier, caramel, I was not getting that on the nose, but it's definitely there on the palate.
Yeah.
Sure. It's adding, it's right in, it's intermingled with that vanilla. Like it's the same note, or it's the same spot on my tongue. It's just intermingled and weaving in and out of that caramel and vanilla and caramel and vanilla. Now I'm getting sort of the ice cream reference you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Strawberry ice cream, man. I don't know. Or like if you when you were a kid, did you ever have strawberry milk? It's similar to that. That's that note, like the Nesquik strawberry milk in a good way.
Yeah, there's something almost, it's not gritty, but it almost has the aftertaste of something that you drank that might have been just a little bit gritty. Like when you didn't mix up the milkshake enough. Like it feels like I drank something gritty, but it wasn't gritty.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know.
So, hey, let's chat a little bit more about this expression in this bottle. And Andrew Page actually has got a good question up for us. So the Laphroaig 25 sounds great. Oldest Laphroaig I've tried is the 18 and whatever old casks are mixed into the lore. Cheapest bottle I can find locally in New Jersey is $3.99. Is it worth it?
Yes, quite simply, yes. The best deal I ever found on these was through Central Wine. They had a deal going on right after January, $3.39 delivered. That was the best deal I ever found. But I paid $500 for a bottle of this. I think the 2017, I got the Party Source in Bellevue, Kentucky, and that was $4.99. And that's about what it is. I mean, anytime you get a 25-year-old whiskey, they're usually about $500.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Mike on this. I think $3.99 is actually a really solid price for the 25-year-old Laphroaig. I got this one at $3.30, and this was, again, it was a special. I mean, they had posted, it was some place in Illinois called, what is it, Internet Wines. This is back when I lived in Washington and could get it shipped to me. And they were $3.39, and I grabbed two of them because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to find a better price than this. But again, I mean, most of the time, regular price on this, I mean, you see this for $550, $600 in a lot of places. I do think, since you've had the 18 and it sounds like you've had some of the higher end Laphroaigs, the 25 is probably a worthy investment for you, Andrew, given kind of where you're at. I wouldn't say throw down $400 if you've only had the Laphroaig 10 necessarily, but since you've had a few of these, definitely probably worth it. Hey, Bourbon Bounty's in the house. What's up, Bourbon Bounty? Cheers from PA to North Carolina. Hope you're doing well, man. So the other thing I was going to ask you, Mike, of all of the Laphroaig 25 expressions, how many of these have you actually had the opportunity to try? I know you mentioned the 20. You've had this one, and also had the one that you're drinking now. Have you had any other ones?
I've had 4 total. I've had 14, 15, 17, and 18. I've never tried the 16. I haven't tried the 19 yet, and I haven't tried anything 2013 or before. So I've only had 4 expressions. So this one being the 2018 actually is the highest ABV of any of them I've had at 52%, and actually the only one that is over 50% that I've had. But again, they're all really consistent. They really are. Even the Black Label one that I had, the 2014, it was 45.1, but it still had a very similar profile to this. Like if you had the whiskeys back to back, you wouldn't think that it was a completely different whiskey or anything.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. So this is the only Laphroaig 25 that I've had. And like I said, I found it at a decent prices, which is pretty much why I pulled the trigger. But I will say that after having got to get to know this one a little bit, and hearing Mike's kind of feedback on some of the other ones he's had, I mean, it sounds like it's a consistent buy. It sounds like it's a consistent bottle. I'm definitely going to keep my eyes open for another one. And like I said, despite this being a little bit different than I guess your standard Laphroaig in the sense of more tropical fruit, obviously more complexity given the age on this. Do you know, Mike? Do they all come out as do they just switch it every year between, like, this one, for example, is Oloroso and ex-bourbon, and then you said the one that you had is ex-bourbon. Were the other two that you had all ex-bourbon as well?
That's a good question, man. I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I could swing back there and look at that 2015 and try to find it to see if it was. I will say this: most of them have some type of sherry maturation in them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost positive the 19 has sherry in it. I'm almost positive the 16 had sherry in it as well. So it's usually the case they do have sherry. I haven't really heard why the 2018 was bourbon cask only. Maybe they want to keep it at a higher ABV. Maybe the sherry kind of brings down the ABV sometimes. Could be. I have no idea. It's a complete guess. But, I think overall they try to stick to a fairly consistent profile. And I think whatever sherry maturation is in it, it's very small. Maybe 10, 15% of the whiskey at tops. And they're probably refill casks.
Yeah, I was taking a look at the back of the bottle here, and it did say it's second fill Oloroso sherry, which is why I think the bourbon notes are standing out so much on this one, even though it has sherry in it. I mean, second fill, like, now the one that you have, is that first fill, or is it's just ex-bourbon?
You know what? That's a good question. Let me take a quick look.
My assumption is it's probably going to be just ex-bourbon. I can't imagine it's first fill, but that would be interesting.
Yeah, it just says ex-bourbon, but anytime it'll say something general like that, I just assume refill. If it's first fill, you would assume they would say that. Yeah. That's the 427 I was telling you about. That has some first fill bourbon in it, and it specifically says first fill bourbon. Every time I've ever had a Laphroaig where it says a pheno cask or a quarter cask or first fill bourbon, they go out of their way to say what that is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And let me ask you this, since you have a few bottles lined up there, aren't you impressed with the label on this 25?
Yeah.
I think the thickness of it. You know what it reminds me of? You ever see the movie American Psycho?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Remember the card scene where he was just like, oh, look, is that embossed? Look at the subtle thickness of it. Is that a watermark? And he drops the card. The first time I got this Laphroaig, man, I like the label. I put my hand on the label because it was a difficult bottle to get out of the box. I was like, man, look at the subtle thickness of that label.
Yeah, and they spared no expense. I mean, you're right that the labels are definitely thicker, and it's a little bit of a different, it's not, I don't know what type of paper you would call this, but it's kind of bumpy. Which is a little bit different than I think the standard ones, but it also comes in this ridiculously gaudy. Well, I won't say it's gaudy, but this really huge wooden box. I'm assuming yours came in something similar to this.
Yeah, if you're referring to the wooden box, that is the most difficult box to get a bottle out of ever. Yes, the ones that you have to smack the back of it just to get it back into place and rip it off the bottom.
Yeah,
yes,
I have the earlier. I definitely had my struggles trying to get this bottle out of here, but. Yeah, this is interesting that they, I think I've actually seen a Laphroaig 10 in a gift box like this.
Really?
Yeah. There's a shop in New Jersey that sells 10s in this. I'm not sure why. I think it was like a holidays thing or something like that. But I'd be curious if anybody else in the chat has had the Laphroaig 25 any of the expressions, and if you have, what your impressions are of it for the price. But yeah, I think this one, between, I think both Mike and I would give this a 2 thumbs up. Definitely one to look for if you're into Islay single malts for sure. This is quite a good bottle.
Yeah, if D2 Silv is in the chat, I don't know if he's jumped in or not, but he's also a big fan of this 25. It's really, let me put it this way: I bought other 25-year-old whiskeys, paid more for them, that I was not nearly as impressed with as this bottle.
I can think of one offhand. Glenfarclas 25. I don't know if you had the Glenfarclas 25. That was the first 25 I bought, and I was quite excited. I was like, why is this only $135 for a 25-year-old whiskey? This is going to be amazing.
And then you taste it.
Yeah, I really wanted it to be good. I left it open for a long time. I was like, maybe this thing's just got to open up. It's just never really came around. I'm actually considering doing a re-review because at the time, I think I gave it like a 3 out of 5 score because I was like really impressed when, I bought it. It was probably within the first year of really drinking Scotch. And boy, I went back to it over the holidays because it's got kind of that Christmassy profile. But boy, that disappointed. It has not gotten any better. So
to me, the 17 is the best of the core range. If you're able to get your hands on the 17, that's definitely the best one in the core range, in my opinion. And it's usually only about $100.
Interesting. I have not had that one, but I would love to. I still like some of the Glenfarclas. I liked the 12-year Glenfarclas just fine, and I think I had the 15, which I also thought was good. I do see the 17 around, so maybe when I'm in the mood for some sherry, I'll pick it up. But yeah, any final thoughts on the 25 that you want to share?
The Glenfarclas?
I'm sorry, Laphroaig.
Oh, the Laphroaig. Okay, so I put some water in a little bit ago. A little Dasani, or excuse me, a little Fiji. I'm drinking Dasani, mixing this with Fiji. So it's been opened up a while now. The fruits, that tangerine note that I like in this is coming up a lot more.
I'm going to put a little water on this as well. I had to put a little more in the glass. I got too eager with how delicious this whiskey is. So yeah, I'm going to do about a teaspoon in this. See what else we can get out of it.
And you know what? Jason Fisk said the Farclas 15 is 46%. He does have a point there. The 15 is the one that's the higher ABV than all the 43% ones, other than the 105.
You can't find the Glenfarclas at 15 in the States anywhere, though. That's the weird thing. At least
the only place I ever got that from was Master of Malt when they still shipped to the United States 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah. But you know what? I did get my hands on a 25-year-old for their 100th auction. I don't know. But it was 51% ABV. It didn't say cask strength. It was 51% ABV, and it was first, second, and third fill sherry casks. So if you can ever find that one around, that one isn't a bad one to get. Also, I was able this year to get a 105 22-year-old for the I can't remember what it was commemorating. It was like the 25th or 50th anniversary of the 105. I think it was the 50th anniversary of the 105. I think it was 2018. And that one was still 60% ABV. It was weird. They got a 22-year-old that was cask strength at exactly 60%, and they just mixed different casks to get exactly 60% with no water, which
interesting.
It tastes like there's some older ones in there, but very similar to the normal 105, shockingly.
That's legit. Have you ever got a chance to try any of the family cask Glenfarclas?
Only once or twice. I got sent samples. And I got to tell you, man, amazing. But see, they make so many of them. The ones I got were some like 28, 29-year-old sherry ones. And I see some ones that are a reasonable price, but they're bourbon cask maturations. They're, somewhere in the 20s. And I just don't know. Glenfarclas is so hit or miss with me. Sometimes I'll really find one that I like. Like the 17, I've always thought was a solid value. I get this butterscotch note on it that I just don't get in any other whiskey. But like you said, the 25 is disappointing. Since D2 Silv jumped in here, he's actually had that Glenfarclas 105 22-year-old and the 25 51%. He was a fan of both of those as well. But Glenfarclas is hit or miss with me, so I always have a hard time spending $300-400 on a bottle when I don't really know what to expect. So I haven't tried the whiskey, and Glenfarclas has disappointed me before.
Yeah, I learned the hard way with the 25. I'll tell you an anecdotal story quick about Glenfarclas 25 that actually maybe gives it some redemption. But I see Whiskey Scouts in the house. I'll raise a glass to Whiskey Scout. Nice to see you, buddy. So I went to as part of this group I'm in called the Philadelphia Whiskey Society, I went to this presentation by a guy named Robin Robinson. He used to be a brand ambassador for Compass Box and has since wrote a book called The Ultimate Whiskey Guide and stuff like that. In any event, so when he was the rep for Compass Box, he actually was in charge of the, running around the US and introducing Compass Box. This is like, 8-10 years ago. And he got a message one day from the office that said, "Hey, I need you to go down to New Jersey and pull the crates with these line numbers of Compass Box Hedonism off and destroy them." And he was like, "Really? What's the deal with that?" And he said, "Well, when they were running it through the lines, apparently they were running it I guess they were running it in somebody else's distillery, but it had been tainted with Glenfarclas 25. And so this whiskey was technically branded illegally because it's the hedonism is a single grain, and that would make it a blended malt because it's actually got some single malt in it, right?" He didn't destroy it, and he actually kept all the cases of it. And as part of the tasting that we did afterwards, poured everybody some Compass Box Hedonism that had been tainted with Glenfarclas 25. And it was a noticeable difference. I mean, slight, but noticeable. And that's probably the best experience I had with Glenfarclas 25. And honestly, a freaking cool story. So that was an interesting experience, to say the least. And, maybe gives me a little bit of a soft spot for Glenfarclas 25, despite, honestly, the disappointment that I've had with it, even after letting it oxidize for close to a year. But
you know what's funny about that is the first bottle or two I had of that, I swear it was a good whiskey. And then I got a bottle that I still remember the bottling date. It was 04/02/2015. And from that bottle, I have not had one good bottle since.
Wow, interesting. I wonder if they changed up with the maturation on it or something like that. I mean, I guess my sense is that the reason it's not very dynamic is that they're using old ass tired casks.
Agreed. I mean, that would be my guess as well. I just think they use fifth, sixth fill casks a lot of times, just kind of throwing it in there together. Mm-hmm. And you know what? It might be okay if they didn't water it down to 43%. If they had it, I'm not saying cask strength, but they had it higher ABV, 48%, I would say at the very least, you get a little punchier of a sherry note. It's just very, now, having said that, it's a very approachable whiskey. If someone was new to whiskey, wanted to try sherry whiskey like bourbons, I'd pour him a glass of Glenfarclas 25. It's an easy drinker.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to say smooth. I'm going to say, though, it's very approachable.
Yeah. Speaking of approachable, this Laphroaig 25, I put a little bit of water on it, and it's interesting for me on the nose on this now with the addition of water. I'm actually getting more of that kind of earthy medicinal notes. They almost seem to be coming up more so for me on this. Whereas earlier it was much more, the smoke, the kind of Band-Aid antiseptic or hospital note was there, but now it's much more. This is almost kind of in harmony now with the tropical fruit, which is interesting. Whereas the tropical fruit for me was a bit more forward before, but still just like absolutely fantastic. I think this is good either way, water or not.
I tell you what, now to me it's separate. Now to me it's ashy road tar, maybe cigarette ash. And my grandma was a huge smoker. And you walk into a room, after she had smoked a cigarette 20 minutes ago, and you can just smell that ash linger. It's a little bit of that. And for whatever reason, strawberries is coming out stronger now. Like I'm really picking up some type of red berry, just like I do in the Laphroaig lore.
I'm with you on the ashiness. Yeah, definitely. It's I'm getting more of that. I'm getting more of the smoke asserting itself. And then I'm actually, considering this is Gato Oloroso, there's a little bit more of that kind of oaky, dark fruit, kind of drying note coming through on the finish on this. But honestly, the difference between water and not is, I would have to do more testing, because I do feel like at some level, if you let this sit in the glass long enough, you're going to end up finding all these notes anyways as this thing evolves. Really fantastic stuff. Awesome. So yeah, man, major pluses on the Laphroaig 25. The next thing we were going to get into was the discontinued but much loved Laphroaig 18.
We're going to get in there, but I just finished my Laphroaig 25 because I poured a little bit of water in there. So what I'm going to do is I'll pour just a little bit more of this Laphroaig 25.
Do it.
And come back to it at the very end.
That's not a bad idea. I'm going to do the same thing.
Well, maybe a little bit more than a little, but hey, Dustin, D2 Silv said he's pouring this 25, and I know he has the same year that I do. It was 2018. So we'll come back to that at some point. But let's move on to this 18.
Let's do it.
Again, I'm green tubing it. You are white tubing it. And by the bottle's green, anybody who knows Laphroaig knows what we mean by green tube and white tube.
Yep. And that is what my bottle looks like. A lot like the Laphroaig 25 bottle, except it's got the green label on the bottom, but this white label on the top. It's kind of similar style, similar thickness too. And
yeah, you got the two-piece label. I got the one-piecer. I got the one piece. You're in the bikini. Your 18's in the bikini. Mine's one is just showing off the black one piece.
Yep. And for those who don't know, the difference between the green tube and the white tube is something of a debate. Basically, what I notice seems to always happen with whiskeys is when a brand decides to change their labeling, there's speculation on whether or not the whiskey's gotten better or worse. In the Laphroaig situation with the 18, before they discontinued the 18 in general, they had a couple years where they went to a white tube. So the white tube is technically the newer tube of this. So I'm going to assume this is, probably a couple years of a newer bottle than the one that Mike's got there. But we're going to put some of this in the glass. I also have a green tube here. Maybe we'll mess around with that too. But yours is 48%. Mine is 48%, if I'm not mistaken.
It is. And I got to tell you, man, it's a whiskey I'm extremely familiar with. I've had both of them neck and neck with each other. I have not been able to notice any difference whatsoever in these two whiskeys. And I've had them side by side on more than one occasion, probably three, I want to say. I have never mentioned, or I've never noticed any difference with water, without water, which one I drank first, which one I smelled first, nothing.
I think that's probably the case with every whiskey for the most part, unless they change the age statement or go to an NAS. I saw this debate happen quite a bit, Mike, with the Highland Park 12, and they switched from Highland Park 12 to Highland Park 12 Viking Honor in their, branding changes that they did around turning everything into a Viking thing. I did do a comparison. I noticed some slight difference, but I think it's probably more batch variation than anything. But I don't know. It seems like it would be a sneaky opportunity for a distillery to make a quick change to reduce the quality of something through a label statement. But I have honestly not. I've not had a lot of them that have had two different labels, so I can't speak on it too much. But the ones I have had, not so much.
Hey, all whiskey distilleries are spread thin because single malt Scotch whiskey has gotten so popular, and especially peated single malt whiskey because it was so out of favor in the 80s and 90s. So, Lagavulin, Ardbeg, they've done a lot of NAS whiskeys. Not that Laphroaig hasn't, but they've done a lot of NAS whiskeys and not necessarily done them well, especially Ardbeg. But I got to tell you, Laphroaig has, I think, kept up their end of the bargain a little bit more than their two neighbors there in Southern Ireland. Especially their readily available, easy to get whiskeys that you don't have to go to Facial to get or get off secondary marketing.
Sure. DH Silv 2 commented that Buna 18 might be an example of the whiskey losing some quality on the label change. I'm assuming that's what he's referencing, but I'm not entirely sure.
He and I and the Malton Man Cave did a comparison. We probably did a month or so ago, but it was something I recently posted on my channel, maybe a week, 10 days ago or something. But we did the old Boonhaven 18 versus the new, and it was night and day different. But with this Laphroaig, that is not the case at all.
Yeah, that's the Boona. I don't think I've seen one of the old labels, so I wasn't able to. But I'll have to check that out. And by the way, if anybody in here has yet to sub You check out Mike's whiskey reviews on YouTube. He does some great whiskey reviews. Cool dude, great insights as you're learning tonight. Definitely sub his channel if you haven't. Looks like Daniel found the 18 183 and the 15 is 233 on Whiskey Exchange. I'm assuming he's talking about Laphroaig.
Ooh. Ooh. You know what? I would say this: the 18 is worth it all day.
Yeah,
that's way too much for the 15. I mean,
yep.
I think I paid like $100 for my 15-year-olds. I have 2 of them. I paid $100. I don't know if I would buy another one for $100. I mean, if I didn't have one, I'd spend $100. There's no way I'd pay $233. I probably wouldn't pay $150 for it. But I tell you what, I would pay $200 for the Laphroaig 18.
Yeah, that price for the Laphroaig 18 strikes me as about what you find them on secondary markets in general.
Yeah.
Like that seems like a fair price to me. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, but honestly, there are 18-year-olds that are readily available that are going for that price. If Glendronach Allardyce is almost $180 in some places already, and I think there are a couple other ones that are getting up in that price. I mean, obviously, Springbank 18 is quite a pricey 18-year-old. Look, I mean, let's talk the specs on this. I mean, this is 48% ABV. This one's all ex-bourbon. It says non-chill filtered on this one. The 25 also said non-chill filtered, which is interesting. I know Laphroaig doesn't always explicitly mention that because I do think they chill filter some of their whiskeys, but maybe not others. The interesting thing, though, Mike, and maybe you have some insight into this.
Sure.
I noticed that they never explicitly talk about it being natural color. Some people
that's because in Germany they do, and they say they add a caramel color into it.
So it's not. It is color. They do add color in everywhere but Germany. I know.
No. I'm pretty sure they add color in all the time. They said that's the way I understood it. But in Germany, they have to disclose to a much larger degree than they have to in the United States or even the UK, which is odd. But I have a buddy over in Germany who was in the army and he still lives there. And he has a couple of whiskeys now and again. And he says over there, all the Laphroaigs say that there is color added to them.
Even a 25-year-old in these 18s, they were adding color.
I don't know about each vintage. I just know about the whiskeys that he had, like the 10 for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if every one of them has color added to it. I would guess that the 25 wouldn't. But any time that they go their way to say it's non-chill filtered, especially with the Laphroaig that does give you a decent amount of information on the bottle. I mean, they will go on and say, is it only bourbon? Is it first fill? Is it quarter cast? They'll give you detail. I mean, they're not Springbank, they're not Kilhoman as far as detail, or say Compass Box, which is pretty much the gold standard as far as the detail, in my opinion. But, they do give you a good amount of information, and anybody who will give you a good amount of information, what they don't say says just as much as what they do say.
Yeah, amen to that. And I think that's absolutely right. I do know that in Germany, they do have some laws where they have to be a little bit more, they have to have more disclosure than they do here. And I guess it's one of those things that, we don't have to get into the whole debate about it, but some folks have strong opinions about coloring affecting flavor and stuff. But I will say this, generally speaking, if you're buying a 25-year-old whiskey, you're not somebody who's just kind of, you're definitely somebody who's invested in the product and knows a bit about whiskey. Why put color into it? Obviously they're, marrying a bunch of bottles together, but it just strikes me as a strange decision to make, given that it doesn't really add anything to it. And they know that folks who are probably willing to invest that much in a whiskey would gladly see it not with added colorant, but so it goes, right? The only Laphroaigs that I ever see that they actually explicitly mention no-chill filtration is this 18, the 25, and the triple wood. They don't, on the triple wood explicitly says non-chill filter too, but the rest of the ones that I've seen, they don't mention it.
So it would be my guess that a good majority of them are. I mean, because really, you look at these. Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, just a little bit of deduction here. The 18 is actually darker than the 25. I know this isn't easy to pick up on the camera, but this is the 18. This is the 25. To me, the 25 is slightly lighter than the 18. The 15 is slightly lighter than the 18, and then the 10 and the 18 are identical. So just a little bit of mixing and matching. You would think the 25 would be darker than the 18, and since it's not, Heck, I don't know. It may be right. Maybe the 25 is natural color.
Yeah. I mean, again, it would go a long way if they just said it. But it looks like the 18, and I think the green bottle's the same, is just pretty much it's 18 years ex-bourbon. Yeah.
But I tell you what, man, the nose on the 18, this is just, every time I go to this whiskey, I love it. I mean, it brings you 85% of what the 25 is. Again, it doesn't have that fruit note, but man, it's got all the Laphroaig. I mean, it's just a beast of a whiskey. I mean, there is just smoke, there is just tar in this, but like a seaweed sweetness, like almost like a cooling mint to go along with that sweetness in the 18. God, I love this whiskey. That was always the thought process when this was readily available for $104 is Laphroaig 25 really worth 4 or 5 Laphroaig 18s? That was the question.
That's a good
question. And the question is buy both. But if you only had $500 to spend, I would say get 5 Laphroaig 18s.
Agreed.
Because it is just an impressive, steady, time after time, just excellent whiskey, bottled at 48%.
Yeah. That right there is one of the biggest sticking points on this one. And yeah, I think the noticeable difference that I pick up right away compared to the 25 is, you don't have the tropical fruit notes. But what you do
to get peated whiskey, tropical fruit notes, you got to go plus 20 years. But this is about as good as you can make an 18-year-old peated whiskey, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, this I think is just kind of the sweet, like one of the sweet spot whiskeys for Laphroaig. It's like the perfect harmony of kind of the complexity that you get off the bourbon cask notes, but then you also just have like almost the perfect level of peat smoke. I think I almost enjoy this like a hair better than the 25, and maybe it is because of price as well, but they're kind of right there for me.
Well, yeah, it's much easier to enjoy this 18-year-old because it gives not as big of a hit. You don't sit there and look at the bottle every time you pour it and say, "Oh, I'm below the label. I'm where the Laphroaig is."
Yeah, this is a $9 pour.
Yes.
It matters for working folks, that's for sure.
Dude, let me tell you a funny story about that. I'll tell you a funny story. I used to put, this is going back 3 or 4 years, the majority of my good whiskeys on this little whiskey bar I have. I can fit about 17 to 19 bottles on it. So I like to put the best bottles I had on the bar. And some high school friends came over after our 20-year anniversary, and a girl walked in there, came out with a big glass full of ice, and I could tell whiskey was in there. And she said, "Hey, Mike, I just grabbed some of the whiskey off your bar." I was like, "Oh, which one?" She was like, "Oh, well, I grabbed the one in the middle. I figured that would be your best one." So she grabs my middle bottle, my best bottle at the time. It has a glass full of ice this deep, and just pours my Macallan 25 about 4 fingers deep.
Oh, man.
Over some ice. And from that moment forward, I moved them all into my pantry.
Oh, yeah, that
was about a $600 pour.
Yeah, man. Wow.
But yeah, man, with this Laphroaig 18, you don't have to feel bad about pouring it heavy. Like I said, even if you have to pay the high end of the secondary market and you're at $200, I mean, there's still 24 ounces in this thing. I mean, you're still at slightly less than $10 an ounce. Hey, if you're going to have 3 or 4 ounces of a drink, what better than this? Great price for it.
Do you pick up any of that ashy note more on the nose on this one too?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love it.
It's far more prominent on this. You get everything that is Laphroaig here just rounded and smoothed out to some degree. I mean, you get the cigarette ash, you get that seaweed, you get that road tar, that fresh paved black top road. Like, where they've condensed the freeway down into one lane, and it's Friday and it's 5:30 and everyone's driving home, and you think to yourself, why did you start this at 5 o'clock on a Friday?
Yeah.
And you're going by and it's hot outside and it's summertime and that black asphalt is just right there. And man, that is there with ash, but just that lovely Laphroaig sweetness, that seaweed vanilla sweetness that I love.
You nailed it, man. That's exactly right. It's like a rainstorm, you know, put a rainstorm on that construction site in the summertime.
Yeah, kind of cooling down the asphalt like prematurely, like the steam's coming up.
Steam's coming up, man.
Steam's coming up. You have a nurse here on the side, like getting some tools ready for the doctor, wiping them down with something that, you know, will kill any germ. It's like that.
Jay McNeil here has got written some poetry themselves about Laphroaig, and it looks like Mike just laid down a couple lines for you right there.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I'm a friend of Laphroaig. One day I'm going to go over there and see my square foot.
Me too.
But, you know, they have a competition a couple years back, and there was like, you know, write something about Laphroaig, and, you know, the best one we're going to put on the top of one of the tubes. And someone said it was like kissing a mermaid that had barbecue or something like that. It was the person who won it. Yeah. And man, I thought to myself, oh, that is so great. A mermaid who just had barbecue. First of all, congratulations for her for having barbecue. One of my favorite things. I had it today. But second of all, being that she, you know, is from the sea and you get that seaweed maritime note with it, that was perfectly said.
Yeah, I think that was part of their they did that kind of opinions welcome marketing.
Yes.
You know, because on the regular 10-year-old for a couple years, it had the green little like tab on top that had a bit of like, it kind of said something about the opinions welcome thing. DH still not a huge Laphroaig fan, but loves the 18 and 25 are world changers. Yeah, amen to that. Jason says, can you still find 18 on the shelves? No. It is discontinued, I believe, as of 2016, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, or anybody else, but I believe it was replaced by the Lore, which is the non-age.
Actually, it was replaced. 2014 was the last year of the 18. It was replaced in 2015 for the 200th anniversary with the 15-year-old. Then the 15-year-old was only a one-year release, and then in 16 they didn't have the 15 or the 18. Mm-hmm. And then then the Lore came out to sort of, in the price point, take its spot. Which I like the Lore. It's not the 18.
No, and this drink that I just took of the 18 is reminding me of that. Wow. So oily.
Now the Whiskey Scout saying he's got a honey note coming across with the Laphroaig as well. I got to tell you, I never really got honey on the Laphroaig, but I tell you what, I'm going to think about honey, and I'm pretty sure I can manifest it on my palate if I think about it hard enough. You ever do that?
Oh yeah,
Eric, at all? Like, you know, someone tells you about something, you're like, oh yeah, of course that's what it is.
A little bit earlier, I think you mentioned. What did you say? And then I started picking it up. Fuck, I can't remember what it was.
Peaches.
Yeah, peaches. Right. All of a sudden I was like, that's what that is. Peaches.
Yeah.
It's funny how that happens. I mean, this is why like whiskey is best when shared, because it's like, man, you get the, everybody has a different palate. And so they get something a little, maybe it comes out stronger for one person over another. And you get that like, oh yeah, that's what that is. Whiskey Scout mentioned medicinal note is so gentle and tasty as well on the 18. Yeah, totally. I just think the 18 is like perfect equilibrium of youthful Laphroaig and aged Laphroaig. It kind of just, for me, hits right in the middle. I absolutely love it. And yeah, it's so gentle and like surprisingly gentle and kind of coy on the arrival. And then it just oily, viscous. You get that hit of the peat smoke. You go through these waves of like tropical fruit. I get an herbal note in this too. Not even an herbal, but grassy note that's kind of hanging in there. I want to almost say it's like bordering grassy floral. I'm not sure what to say, but it's like really subtle. Oh man, but yeah.
So it's not that seaweed note?
Maybe that's what it is. It's kind of right in there. I'm trying to think of a better way to that I can describe it than like what's the fusion of those two things.
You know what does kind of remind me of, now I'm kind of digging a little deeper. Have you ever had a Kushu 12?
No.
Kushu 12 is a peated Japanese malt, and Japanese malts are different, but there is sort of a greenish note that reminds me of something here. And again, it's something green mixed with the smoke.
Oh man, this Laphroaig 18. I haven't had a sip of this in a few months, and my God, I miss it.
All right, so let me ask this: best bang for your buck whiskey, assuming Laphroaig 18 was still available for $105. Laphroaig 18 at 105, or Laphroaig 10 cast strength at 60. And for all of you at home too, tell me, which one would you rather? What's better bang for your buck, Laphroaig? Laphroaig 18 at 105, Laphroaig cast strength 10 at 65.
At 105,
your thoughts.
At 105, I would lean the 18. Unfortunately, it's not 105, and that really kills me. But and it's a slight lean. I did a top 5 Laphroaig video a while back, and the 10 cast strength was my number 1. And I think part of the reason is bang for your buck, but also it's so deep and complex and yet punchy as hell with that peat hit. I think that, the comparison on the smoky peat hit is significantly more impactful with the 10 cast strength. But I mean, the 18, the subtlety, the complexity, the nuance of this one, I think just puts it above. And for 105, yeah, I mean, definitely. For the secondary market price of 180 now, maybe I would take 2 bottles of Laphroaig 10 cast strength, or 3 compared to what it would cost now, right?
Yeah, so let's get into this, man.
Yeah.
You've been smelling it. What are you picking up on the palate on this Laphroaig 18?
So for this one, again, a little bit more ashy. I get more vanilla on this too. I mean, I'm in a sense comparing it to the 25, but standalone for me, the dominant notes: sweetness, slight smoky, kind of smoky ashy note. So it's vanilla, it's apple, it's slight pear note. God, there's so much happening. Again, I get this slight sweet grassy note. I can't quite put my finger on it. There's also more of a marine. It's not earthy. It's not that vegetal, deep earthy peat that you maybe get off younger Laphroaigs or Ardbegs. It's more sweet. And it's
someone mentioned in the comment,
almost heathery in a way. You also get some floral note or floral fragrant notes on this. I get just flowers, lavender, really, really well-rounded flower. Nothing sharp at all.
Yeah, definitely nothing sharp. Someone mentioned in the comment section, I think Jason, the Kushu has an herbal freshness to it, and he's right. But there is some type of a fresh note really on here too, and it's almost bordering on a mint. It's almost like, now that I put a few drops of water in here, it's almost, I can pick up a mint note and almost something off the bottom of a boat, like when it's in dry dock right before it's about to get winterized. If that makes any sense.
I like that. The other thing I noticed on the nose, man, I mean, here's one thing that I think the 25 and the 18 seem to have in common. You do not get that oakiness, that oaky barrel note on the nose at all on either of these. I mean, maybe a little bit more on this, but I think it's more the ashy smoke. You really just don't get that, despite these being both primarily ex-bourbon. It's just not that dominant for me. This one, again, there's that floral sweetness, vanilla, caramel. God, there's something else too, and I can't quite put my finger on it. It's apple, but it's not like a heavy citrus, kind of citrusy apple like a Granny Smith. It's more just kind of like a nice sweet apple. Pear.
Yeah, I would say it's probably leaning more towards pear for me.
Even melon to some degree. I think
maybe cantaloupe, maybe
cantaloupe, yeah, or honeydew.
Yeah, honeydew melon, yeah, maybe something like that.
And also, just a nice, God, it's almost like powdered sugar. Still amazing.
As my buddy Dustin would say, candied cigarettes.
Candy cigarettes. Man, whoever said that hit the nail on the head. Man, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that's that D2 Silva over there, Dustin. He mentioned that. He's mentioned that a couple of times, but the first time he mentioned that, I was just like, oh yeah, that is what it is. Candied cigarette.
Candied cigarettes.
Candied cigarette with some real ash.
Yeah. I'm gonna guess they don't make those anymore.
You probably could find it.
Maybe in like a gag gift for like a wedding or something. But boy, like those used to be things you could get all the time as a kid.
I'll tell you what, too. You ever have that that thing where you had the white sugar stick, and you had like the pouch full of like just sugar essentially, but it was grape or it was strawberry or something like that. What the heck were those things called?
Pixie stick.
Yes. No. Yes. Yeah. Pixie stick. That's exactly what they were. Not the ones you cracked open that just had the thing, but like the one that actually had like the sugar thing that you'd lick, and then it would stick to the candy, and you'd suck on that. Yeah. A little bit of that too. Yeah. This is truly an amazing whiskey, and a whiskey I absolutely took for granted for many years.
Yeah, man. I'm hearing you on that. Looks like we got a couple other folks. Yeah. Whiskey Scout also agrees minty on the finish. Yeah. I think we're all kind of picking up that mint on the finish on this one.
Yeah. Mint leaf. It's nice and it's cooling. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I get that a little bit on Lagavulin 12 in a different way, but that mint, that cooling mint comes in.
Drambem, thank you, man's in the house saying hello all. What's up? We're sipping some Laphroaig 18. Andrew Page, the 18 is better than the Loire, but I can't find the 18 anymore locally. I can pick up the Loire for 80, which seems to be a permanent sale. Crazy since I first bought Loire. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, Andrew. Mike and I were chatting prior to this video about the Loire. I have a bunch of Loire. I get 3 or 4 bottles of Loire, particularly because I ran into it for a deal like that. It was like for many years, it was like, after it'd come out, it was, $100 or more. Now and I can find it for 75, 80. Great whiskey.
Whiskey Scout says it's been 40 years since I had a candied cigarette. I don't recall the taste. Well, a little bit of this, my friend. A little bit of this.
Donner Pass is in the house. What's up, Donner Pass? Hey, everybody at work. Just dropping in to say hi for a few minutes. Lots of snow coming down. Shit.
Really? Where's he at?
He's up. Ooh, God, I know we go through this all the time.
Is he in Canada?
I wanted to say yes, but I'm not. Yeah, he is in Canada. He's gonna correct me if I don't, because I have a real bad time remembering this shit.
I'll tell you what, man. A lot of whiskey fans up in Canada, and they tell you what, they do not get a great deal on whiskey a lot of times. So there's some super good enthusiasts out there.
Yeah, Jason Fisk among them, who's saying hey to Donner. Andrew Page, Bottle King. Oh, that's where you got the Loire. Got you.
You ever been to Canada?
I haven't. I was going to take a trip. Jason Fisk will know about this. I was going to take a trip to Banff National Park outside Calgary right around the end of April before the COVID-19 outbreak. And now I didn't pay too much and have to go through the process of trying to get my money back. But I had planned to go up there and then drive to Vancouver with my girlfriend. So we had a nice little Canadian trip plan, but I just had to spend that money on whiskey and find another time.
Yeah, I tell you what, man, Toronto's a great city, and I cannot speak highly enough about Montreal. I don't think I'm saying that correctly. They say like Montreal. That's in the French part, but I tell you what, Montreal is a great city if you ever go there. If you ever go there, I recommend a few things. Number one of them is their smoked meat sandwiches. It's like a local delicacy, and man, they are fantastic. It's like cheesesteaks in Philly.
Yeah, I have. So my partner, she went to school at Cornell, which is in Ithaca, New York, not far from the Canadian border, and used to take trips up to Montreal quite frequently. And has said that's like her favorite city, and so it's been on our list of places to visit. And yeah, I would love to go. I've heard good things. I know Swami's up there. I'd have to go say hi to him too. But I would love to go visit. I've heard nothing but good things.
Oh man, beautiful city, great architecture, great food, great people, man. I tell you what, I've always had an excellent time in Montreal. I used to go there for work, and I probably went there 6 times in 2 years. And every time I just had a great time. Love Montreal. Great city. Can't speak highly enough about it. Maybe not my favorite city, but up there.
Favorite Canadian city or favorite city in general?
It's definitely my favorite Canadian city, but yeah, favorite city in general, probably not. But it's a great time.
Daniel popped in to say, am I the only one who thinks Loire is good, but it's just good, nothing great?
I would say he's on the right track. It's a solid whiskey. If that whiskey was $60, it would be a regular whiskey I'd have all the time. When I first bought it, it was $120, and at that price, I wouldn't buy another one. But 60, $80, great whiskey for that price.
Yeah, the first time I had it, I think so much about the first experience you have with a whiskey can like where you are in your journey can really, leave certain whiskeys to be leave special spots in your heart. And for me, the lore, I had gotten into the peated whiskeys. I'd been drinking peated whiskeys for about, I don't know, eight to 10 months, maybe just under a year. I'd had the quarter cask Laphroaig. I'd had the 10. I'd had the Ardbeg 10. I'd had the Ugadal. I had one of the Cairdeas, and I was like, I kept seeing that lore. And I just wasn't at that place where I was like, should I spend $100 on a bottle of whiskey? I was like right in that, like, I'd went from 50 to, okay, I'll spend 80 at the most. And the lore was like that North Star I was chasing. And so I grabbed it and I loved it. It was, the complexity of it was just like one of the first really complex whiskeys I'd ever had, where I really noticed the difference between the maturations, which I think is one of the things the lore does well. It's pretty prominent. You can kind of tell the different flavors it's got going on in it. And so I really liked it. In hindsight, if I had it my way, like I said, or like you said, Mike, for that like $80 range, I would take it over probably most other core range Laphroaigs, but it's not a world beater. It's not something that's like I'm rushing out to get it when I run out of a bottle.
All right. So if they're the exact same price, whatever price that is, Laphroaig 10 cask strength, Laphroaig lower, which one are you picking up?
Cask strength.
Yep. I totally agree with you, and that's a $62 bottle.
Yep. I wouldn't even hesitate.
Nope. I'm right there with you, man. I mean, again, dude, the Cairdeas, the triple wood Cairdeas and the Pheno Cairdeas I picked up for $65, $70. The Lord just, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the guys at the Laphroaig are laughing at me because they always put 21-year-old whiskey in it. Even the young whiskey is maybe 15, 16 years old. Who knows? To me, though, the taste-wise, I get far more out of the Cairdeas bottlings and far more out of the 10 cask strength than I do the lore. Agreed.
So a little chat about candy cigarettes.
Yeah, apparently they're still around. What can you find?
Yeah, Jason Fisk is in Calgary. That's right, because Jason and I had talked about Banff ones before. We're up to 17 folks in the chat. Hey, everybody. Cheers. We just went over the hour mark about 10 minutes ago. It's a little Laphroaig Fest 2020 with myself and Mike from Mike's Whiskey Reviews. If you haven't subbed his channel yet, take a second, open a new tab in your window, go to YouTube, Mike Whiskey Reviews, and give him a sub. He's doing great stuff. We're having a good time tonight. We're on our second Laphroaig. We started with the 25. We are now on the 18. We are both loving this. These are both absolutely fantastic expressions from Laphroaig. Glad everybody can join us. Sláinte.
All right, so we've been focusing on the 18. I'm just going to go back real quick and smell the 25 that I poured about 15 minutes ago. Just smell.
Do it.
Cask strength, but so much softer than those fruits, man. Wow.
I also have some 25 in the glass. I got it covered up with Alan, the whiskey friend coin that he sent me. I'm going to let that sit for a little bit, and I will join you on that a little bit later too. Oh, all day.
All right, so final thoughts on this 18 before we move to the 15.
I get more bourbon notes out of this than I did the 25 for obvious reasons, as the 25 has a bit of Oloroso, but I can't say enough about this. If I had to define Laphroaig 18 in one sentence, is that it's the perfect intersection of Laphroaig style. I think this grabs enough of what you get out of older Laphroaigs with the complexity, with the brighter fruit notes, with some of those deeper marine qualities, just more subtlety, but it also still has that punchiness of the youthful Laphroaig. It's a soft on the palate, but dynamic as you take it down. You get something a little different every single time. I wish this was still on the shelf. Absolutely kick-ass whiskey.
Probably undervalued initially. I mean, they were everywhere. I mean, they were 15, 20 bottles deep in every liquor store here in Columbus for years. But I got to tell you, I'm right there with you. I don't know if when it was out, there was a better $100 bottle you could buy on the market. Probably there wasn't. If you're a fan of Isla, if you're a fan of peated whiskey, it's all here. It really is. It's meaty. It's sweet. And that Laphroaig sweetness is just such a great mix with their very medicinal, very mineral style of peat. For whatever reason, that asphalt and ash to go along with that sweet seaweed and just a little bit of vanilla is just magic, man. Yeah. It's just magic. I love it. I mean, I know Laphroaig's a hit or miss whiskey with people. People either love it or hate it. Fortunately, I'm a person who loves it. And regardless of how many vintages I have or how many older whiskeys, older Laphroaigs I try, always happy with this 18-year-old. Always happy.
Well put, Mike. So that's the wrap on the 18. What a great pour. I hope that somewhere down the line there's an opportunity they put this back on the shelf. I'm not going to hold my breath, but boy, it would be great because folks, I think everybody should have the opportunity to try this one. Mm-hmm. Daniel mentioned it, $60. That would be awesome for the lore, even 80. I think there's so much hype around it, and that I was expecting Corey Vrecken and Oogie, and the lore didn't do it for me, although I really liked it. Yeah, there was a considerable amount of hype. The lore came out just a bit before I was really into single malt, but again, I had heard about the lore. I watched another whiskey tuber, Food Quig's video about the lore, who was just absolutely blown away by it. That got me wanting it even more. And so
you like that one.
Yeah. And so look, I don't think it's the 25 or the 18, but it's a damn good pour. And again, price matters on this one. $120 is a bit much. You find it in that, 80 is 80. I mean, I don't know if this is going to be happening across the board, but I've seen it at a healthy amount of stops, even Fine Wine and Good Spirits here in PA, which is the state liquor control board, where they're selling lore for 85. It's like, not a bad price.
Not a bad price.
Daniel says he's seeing the cask strength at 55 where I'm at, and the lore is 130. Wow. Yeah. Grab 2 bottles of cask strength, bud.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a really good price. Hey,
Daniel's asking D2 Silv, what's your favorite Laphroaig? Daniel, I might be wrong, man, but I can pretty much answer this with some certainty. He's going to say that 25 here. That's for sure. He loves that whiskey.
Looks like you got a sub from MD. It's yours.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Send a little thank you up there. Come on over, man. Get a taste. I usually throw out a review about once a week. Usually they're pretty good whiskeys, so you at least get my opinion on them. All right, so we're going to move on to this 15-year-old Laphroaig, 43% ABV.
Yep, let's do it. I'm going to catch up real quick here on the chat first. Sorry. Daniel said that Ardbeg Laphroaig are his favorite brands, along with maybe Kilhoman. Hey, those are great whiskeys. Great whiskeys. Is that the attraction for you, Mike, of Laphroaig, the sweetness component?
What do you say now?
He said, is that the attraction for you of Laphroaig, is that sweetness?
I mean, it's the whole thing. I mean, that's a big part of what adds to it. If it was just a big smoke bomb, I probably wouldn't be as fond of it as I would. But, I like sweet and sour, just in general. I'm one of those terrible human beings that like pineapple on a pizza. So, there's nothing better to me like a sausage pizza, a little bit of pineapple on it.
Yeah.
My relatives back home in Chicago want to disown me when I say that, but I mean, I like mixes. You know what I mean? I like something that's a lot of this and a lot of this, and you bring it together and just
right on.
I'm a peanut butter and jelly sandwich kind of guy.
Dig it. DH still says Laphroaig the lore is just great. Hey, Steve Connor's in the house. What's up, Steve? Nice to see you. I see a little Laphroaig in the background of your YouTube avatar. You're in the right place then. Nice deal. Steve Connor says the only 30 first fill sherry is sublime. Wow, I'd love to get my hands on that.
Oh, he could not be more correct. That one is, and I think it's 43% ABV, but that one is amazing. That old 30 that is sherry only. Again, I think it's 43% ABV. That's just an incredible whiskey.
Well, I hope we got another incredible one coming up. I know you've had this before, but I am actually going to be uncorking this bottle so I can drink it along with you here. This the next whiskey up for our little Laphroaig Fest 2020 here is going to be Laphroaig 15. This is a limited edition, 2015. This was part of its the 200th anniversary of Laphroaig. 43% ABV. Not an easy whiskey to get your hands on anymore these days, but I have only tried this once at a bar, and I'm going to crack this bottle that I just got open to enjoy here with Mike. But Mike, you got any opening thoughts on the Laphroaig 15 as we get this thing in the glass over here?
So approachable, man. This is going to be, I can say with complete confidence, our lightest Laphroaig of the night by a good margin. As far as the smoke and the ashiness and the asphalt, it's taken a big step back. There's still a meatiness to it. And while there really isn't fruits, there is just this nice vanilla note that comes up extremely easily in the 43% ABV.
And do you have a sense of what this is aged in? It doesn't say on the bottle. I'm actually going to look at the tube here. I'm going to assume it's ex-bourbon, but I'm not quite sure.
Well, it's definitely not all sherry. I don't know if there's any sherry in it, but my point is there's definitely bourbon cask maturation in this, without question.
Yeah, it doesn't actually say here on the bottle either. And it, or on the tube, it does not mention anything about chill filtration or natural color on this one either, it looks like. So this one, unlike the other two, maybe they did chill filter. I'm not sure.
Anytime I see 43% ABV, I think it's probably chill filtered.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good rule of thumb. There's the pop. Going in the glass. I got another clean Glencairn here for it. All right, so this is going to be a neck pour, so I might have to drink one or two of these tonight just to get my calibrations right.
I tell you what, from what I remember, even the neck pour is pretty approachable.
That's what the color's looking like. This is it's a really nice gold. That's as gold gets. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Maybe gold -1.
Yeah.
You want to get real technical in the charts.
Yeah.
I used to do that when I first started my whiskey reviews. Like I had like a little color chart on like a laptop underneath me when Billy and I were doing the whiskey reviews. Sure. I kind of put it downstairs. I put it like next to the computer. I'm like, gold -2. And I put like a white piece of paper and kind of put the thing up in front of a white piece of paper. I'm like, it's gold -2. A few people ask me like, how can you guess that? I'm like, I'm cheating. I got a laptop right underneath the countertop here.
Wow, what a difference on the nose immediately. For me, citrus, lemon, grapefruit, vanilla in the back. That smoke is there, but boy, it is definitely softer and more subtle. It's still that kind of similar Laphroaig in the sense of it's sweet. The smoke is kind of that medicinal iodine kind of thing. But boy, it is subtle. I am really getting a lot of citrus off this.
I always called it a mini Laphroaig. And what I mean by that is it's a lesser version of what the little big punch Laphroaigs usually are. Even the 10. You know, even the 10-year-old, which again is a 43%er like this one is, it comes off far more aggressive than this 15-year-old. This 15-year-old is so approachable.
Wow. Yeah. This is interesting. You know what this is making me think of as a comparison is the Ardbeg NO. It's like a scaled back. It's a little bit more of that citrus note. It's a little bit more of that soft fruit note. Scaled back on the peat. Ooh, wow. I'm also getting that. I'm getting more of a pear apple thing on this one. The apple is actually stronger on this one than it was on the 18.
I'm almost getting a light lemon.
Yep. Yeah, the lemon.
Just very, very light. Like a peel, maybe, like a lemon oil, maybe. Yeah, but it's something citrusy. It's almost like a lemon, maybe lime, citrusy.
Wow.
Almost bordering on kind of what that what an Ardbeg 10 gives you after a little bit of time in the glass. Have you ever tried an Ardbeg 10 and then left the glass out overnight?
I mean, I haven't left the glass overnight intentionally, but the glass has been there in the morning and I have smelled it.
Like there is that evaporation Ardbeg 10 sort of lemon lime citrus note to this.
Definitely. Yeah, lemon lime on point. Ben Demon Hunter's in the house saying, hey, Eric and Mike. Hey, Ben, nice to see you, bud. Thanks for stopping in. We're doing some Laphroaig 15. Wow. Yeah, vanilla. It's vanilla. It's citrus. There's a grapefruit. There's a lemon. There's a lemon. Maybe lemon lime is even more accurate.
Yeah. Grapefruit. That's a good one. You know what? That's actually, as soon as you said that, that rang a bell in my mind.
Anyway, the longer this sits in the glass, I get more and more of that grapefruit. And I am not a huge grapefruit fan at all. And so it'll be interesting how this one goes down. I do like it so far on the nose here. But again, it's all wrapped in with that kind of nice, sweet creaminess, creamy nose that you get off Laphroaig. And then the peat smoke is just not ashy at all. It's just kind of a bit in the background. Slight kind of wood fire, but
you know what it kind of reminds me of, and just an element of it? Probably 2 or 3 months ago, I did a Laphroaig 32.
Wow.
I don't know if you're able to catch that. I was visiting a buddy of mine in Indianapolis, Corey, and he had Laphroaig 32, and we were drinking on that, and I wanted, man, it was such a good whiskey, I wanted to bring it, but it had that nice little citrus note to it, and it had the creaminess to it. It's a little creamier than this, but it took a big step back as far as the smoke, like this 15-year-old is doing right now. And again, that lemon and lime was there, and that creaminess was there, and there were some elements in this 15 that really remind me of that 32.
I have not, unfortunately, had the opportunity to try the 32, but I'll be curious to hear a little bit more about that as we go along tonight.
Oh man, I'm telling you what, that was a great whiskey. I mean, that was probably that, and that old 30 was probably the best Laphroaigs I've ever tried. Which just goes to show you don't necessarily have to get a bottling that it was put in a bottle 10, 15, 20 years ago to get the best version of the distillery.
Yeah, agreed on that. Totally. Yeah, wow.
These distilleries, regardless of what people are saying, are coming out with some excellent whiskeys. Lagavulin, Ardbeg. I mean, I know people are poo-pooing that 19 a little bit, but that's an excellent whiskey in my opinion. Really, they have, if you're willing to wait them out and spend the money, they're really putting some excellent casts into some of these bottlings, and you can still find a lot of really good whiskeys out there.
You getting anything else off this 15, or should we go down the hatch?
Well, yeah, I mean, I put water in all these other ones before, but with this one, I don't know if I'm going to put it. Well, you know what? I'll put a drop in there, but yeah, let's see what we're picking up on the palate.
Let's do it.
That's soft. Super soft, super easy drinker. Like I said before, if I want Laphroaig, but just cut in half, I would go to this 15. It's so approachable. It's even nice on a warm day. Excellent. Even the linger on it is just sweet. It's fruity. It's got ash, but it's muted. If you want a sweeter Laphroaig, this is the one for you.
You hit the nail on the head, Mike. Wow, that is one of the lightest. That's the lightest Laphroaig I've had. It is super soft. The pepper note that I get on the development hangs on for just like a second or two, and then it just goes away. I am left with a little bit of, citrus, grapefruit, lemon. It's like a soft, almost like a lemon meringue kind of thing. It's like a sweet lemon.
Oh, and yeah.
Finish is kind of in the medium, maybe a little.
It's kind of snappy on the finish. It is. It's a little bit snappy. And you're right. There is a bit of a pepper linger. It's almost like whipped cream and 7-Up.
Yeah.
It's not as meaty as the other ones, but there is a twinge of meat in there. Maybe like a.
I think the body on it has a step back. I mean, it's just not as robust a whiskey at all. I mean, this is, of course, 5% ABV less than the 18, and then, a couple ABV less than the 25 in your case, and about, 6% less. So it's a little bit expected. But I'm actually, I think about like the Laphroaig 10, which is also at 43. I think is a much meatier whiskey. This is just really, again, the analogy that comes to mind right away for me is with Ardbeg is the Ano. It's more approachable, accessible, lighter. This one I could really, enjoy on a, I don't know, nice spring day type thing where you want a little bit of that peat punch, but nothing that's going to blow your mind. Interesting. Really interesting.
Yeah, it's for being the same ABV as the standard 10, it's a completely different whiskey. Completely different.
Yeah.
It's I've always heard that one of the royals really likes Laphroaig 15, like it's his favorite whiskey.
Prince of Wales, the Prince of Wales, he said that this is the best expression they have. I don't know what that says about his judgment, but excuse me just one sec. I gotta adjust this chair.
And Steve Connor is asking what Laphroaig 25s. I had the 18, and I believe again you were at the 17.
Yep, that's correct. Mine was the 48% ABV or 48.9%. And yours was a little higher, if I'm not mistaken, 52?
52 even.
Yeah.
Which always makes me wonder. I don't know why. I don't like the round numbers. I need a point something. It's like my phone updates. I need something behind the whole number. I want a 0.3, a 0.7, something.
I'm having a slight tech difficulty. I'm going to go dark for just a sec, Mike, if you want to man the ship.
Okay. Hey, I have no problem talking. Anybody who has visited my whiskey YouTube channel or D2 Sales knows that I can carry a conversation just by myself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare this 15-year-old Laphroaig with the 25-year-old that I poured about 40 minutes ago at this point, just on the nose. All right, so the 25 being cask strength almost dwarfs the nose on the 15 when you compare them side by side. Even more fruity than this 15. I would say you're still getting probably what I would say are deeper south fruits with the 25 as compared to the 15. And what I mean by that is again, I'm picking up mango, maybe a little banana with this 25, along with that lovely vanilla. And then when I go back to the 43% 15-year-old, yeah, lemon and lime. Maybe a twinge of custard.
All right, I'm back. Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries, man.
So
now Steve Connor saying that probably the best Laphroaig 25 he had was in 2015. And I believe that's the one we were talking about earlier, the black label that was the 45.1% ABV. So Steve, if you can confirm that 2015 was the 45.1 with the skinny box. I had that same bottle at one point, and I actually know a place on Fort Wayne where my sister lives where they still have 3 of them. I'm just waiting for them to get a little bit less expensive.
Ben Demon Hunter and both Jason Fisk and Ben Demon Hunter commented on the grapefruit note in this, which is interesting. Daniel, does anybody buy Laphroaig for the sweetness? Well, Pete heads who are looking for the subtlety, perhaps, right? Andrew Page.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Do I buy Laphroaig for the sweetness? No, I buy it because it's a smoky monster. But the sweetness is what keeps me coming back to it.
Boy, this 15 is interesting. I do, in the finish on this, I get a little bit of a chocolatey caramel note. But again, there's this lingering thing all the way through of grapefruit. It's like it's definitely a bitter sour, and not overpowering. I mean, it's just kind of in there. But this is a lot different than really any Laphroaig I've had. Not sure quite where it's landing on me yet. Now, granted, this is the neck pour. Oxidization will probably give this a little bit of more subtlety and nuance. But This is an interesting pour. And now the thing about this Laphroaig 15 is that it was a limited edition. I mean, this isn't something you can get very easily, as far as I know. Is this something you see on the shelf anywhere in your area, Mike?
Never did. I never saw this in Columbus, Ohio. I had to get this secondary market. I want to say I paid about $115 shipped for the two of these. A guy I know that I often switch whiskey or swap whiskeys with, or I buy something he has and he buys something I has. He's out in New York, and he was able to get me two of these, and I think I paid $230 for both of them shipped, which isn't terrible. I think most places it was about $100 bottle retail anyway. All right, so Steve Connor has verified that the 45.1 is 2014, which I was off by a year there, and he said his 2015 was a 46.8. So, I mean, a wild variation as far as ABVs with these 25-year-olds. Lately, they've been higher.
Yeah, that's what you were saying. I mean, I'm not sure. You said that there were a couple that you had earlier that are like earlier releases, and those were all a little bit higher than the one in 2017 as well, or you thought they might be at least?
Yeah, well, I knew the old Black Label ones were definitely a lower ABV. I had heard rumors that they put 26, 27, 28, 29-year-old whiskey in them. I can't verify if that's accurate or not, but maybe the current version of the 25 was just put into it came out of the still at a higher ABV. I'm not sure. Maybe they used less sherry and the bourbon cask maturation kept the ABV higher.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, I've noticed the last 2 or 3 years, it's been some of the highest ABVs I've seen. I'm specifically talking about 2018 and 2019. Both of those are well over 50%. So I know you like the 1 to 5 scale. 1 to 5? What would you give this Laphroaig 15?
I was actually just thinking about that. I mean, putting aside the fact that it's neck pour and obviously with a little more time, it'll be, something I can think on more. This is like a 3 out of 5. I would put the 18 and the 25 would be both 4.5s, if not 5s out of 5. This one I think is more of a 3. This grapefruit citrus note that I'm picking up on the on the very different, and yeah, I'm not quite sure where it's sitting with me yet. And honestly, it's a very soft Laphroaig. I'm a little bit surprised at. I mean, I think the 18 is much more robust and punchy than this one, and that's kind of surprising given this is more youthful. So I'm not quite sure yet. So I'm kind of in that middle ground. I mean, it's a good whiskey. It's just a little bit less than what I think I would normally expect.
You know what's funny? I agree with you on many of those points. What I always found strange about the difference between the 15 and the 18 is the 18 replaced the 15 at some point.
Right.
And then the 15 replaced the 18 at the tail end in 2015. And they couldn't be more different whiskeys. I mean, they weren't even trying to be a similar profile. I mean, these are completely different whiskeys.
Very much so. Yeah.
All right, man. I'm ready to turn on the fire, buddy. I'm ready to take a look at this Laphroaig 10 cask strength. What do you say?
You're going with the cask strength. So unfortunately, I don't have any cask strength open, and so my question is going to be: do I go with the lore, or do I do the Cairdeas Triple Wood cask strength from 2019?
The Cairdeas Triple Wood, man, that is just a walk in a pine forest, my friend. I love that whiskey, but it's up to you, man. You got 2 winners there. There were no bad choices.
Yeah, I'm going to throw it to
the winning.
Chat. If folks in the chat want to chime in, if I should do the Cairdeas Triple Wood or if I should do the Laphroaig lore. I'll give it a few minutes while I finish up this 15. Mike, where would you put this one if you did a 1 to 5 scale on the Laphroaig 15? Where do you think this would land with you?
Well, if you ever go back and look at this video, you can verify that this happened. when I asked you that question, you had looked to your left. Excuse me, your right, our left. I put up 3 fingers. So I was all about the 3 right from the beginning.
Yeah, okay. You're about in the right spot on that one then. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, as far as the 25 and 18, I mean, I would say the 18's a 4 or push a 4. 25's a tick above that, maybe a 4.2. I try to put cost out of my mind when I'm looking at a whiskey. Both ways, you know what I mean? I mean, obviously, it's more likely that I'll like a higher priced, longer aged whiskey. But in general, I try to just, you know what? If somebody was giving me this at a bar, a bartender, or someone who owned the bar would say, "Hey, try this whiskey. Tell me what you think." I try to judge a whiskey that way, not what it costs, what I had to do to get it.
Yeah, that's a totally fair point. I take the cost into consideration only in like my second commentary on the whiskey. So I'll score 0 out of 5 with half-point variations on basically like the quality of the whiskey, and then I associate it with where I think it lands on value. So for me, like if you're a 4 or above, it's fucking buy the whiskey. In the 3 range, it's like, yeah, buy it if you find it at a really good price, but you should definitely try this. If it's between a 2 and a 3, it's like try before you buy. One is like 1 to 2. I don't really recommend, and anything lower than 1 is like hell no. So I definitely try to judge it on its merits, and then it's difficult, right? Costs change.
Sure.
But I think about it, just in the sense of how I approached it when I was first getting into whiskey, where I was kind of asking myself the question, like, okay, is this good? But or like we were doing earlier, like, is this good, or is this really $200 better whiskey? I don't know. But again, it's like, it's tough to say. But I appreciate thinking about it, but I think ultimately, judge it on its merits as much as you can. And it's hard on your mind, as you were saying, like, as you get along in your journey, 2 years ago, it would have been crazy for me to think about spending $100 on a whiskey. Now, spending $200 seems reasonable, for some whiskey. So it's just interesting how that like shifts as you go along,
Yes, it does. It's like cars or clothes or anything else.
Right.
What else? Something that I like to talk about the cost of whiskey and talk about, for this, I'd always have one. I think a couple of times tonight we've talked about the price of the Laphroaig 18, the price of the 10, and for $60, the 10's such a good deal. So it's not that I don't take that into consideration, but also another way I like to look at it is percentage of the next step up. I'm pretty sure at some point when we were talking about the 18, I said it brings you 85 to 90% of what the 25 does at 1/5 the cost. So why it doesn't have the tropical fruit note, it still brings you a lot of what that whiskey is. And again, if you're bringing me 80, 85%, maybe 90% of what a whiskey is at 1/5 the cost, that says a lot.
Mike, curious if you know anything about Daniel's question here about the PX cask. I think I'm going to go, while we think on that, I think I'm just going to go ahead and do I'm going to do the lore.
Go for it.
Open up a lore.
Unfortunately, Daniel, I have never had the PX cask, man, which is a shame. I had an opportunity to buy it. To tell you a little Laphroaig story, I had the normal triple wood, the 40, I believe it's 48%. And I just was not impressed with that whiskey. Now, the Cairdeas triple wood, completely different story. I was really, really impressed with that whiskey. But I really wasn't impressed with it. And I thought the reason I wasn't impressed with it was because of the type of sherry that they used in it, which I believe was PX sherry, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe it was Oloroso. It's hard to remember. But because of my lackluster opinion of the regular triple wood, I passed on buying the PX cask, so I have no idea, but actually I would really like to know.
I have had a glass of the PX. I had it at a bar in London last year. My general feeling was that it was pretty decent, not a world beater. It definitely was. It had a much sweeter PX sherry influence than any of the Laphroaig I've had, for that matter. The thing that was interesting about it was, it's a travel exclusive, and I've only had one travel exclusive Laphroaig, which is the 4 Oak, which was probably the most disappointing Laphroaig I've had. And I say that because the select you should expect to be disappointing. but the Laphroaig 4 Oaks was really disappointing. And so the PX was something I've always hunted for, but every time I've been international, I haven't been able to find it. It's good. I think there's a lot of people who really, really like it. I think it's not as good as any of the whiskeys we've had here tonight so far. But definitely, it's solid, and you get that sweet PX finish on it, which I think a lot of people really like. I really enjoy it, especially with like the Lagavulin Distillers Edition. So I give it kind of like, if you're traveling international and see it, grab a bottle. You won't be disappointed. Jay McNeil said, when I'm at the Laphroaig 10 cask strength, I knew it was time to settle down. I drink other whiskeys, but I always come back to Laphroaig. Oh, man, ditto to that. A lot of love for the cask strength. It's just really good. I love it, but it's not my favorite. There are other things I like more, but those things are also cask strength. Alan, the whiskey friend, is in the house. Hey, Mike, just got up to see the little boys room. You do know, my age. Saw you guys are on. Need to watch the replay. Cheers, Phil. Just wanted to say hi. Cheers on. Yeah, cheers to you, Alan. We've been drinking some Laphroaig. I actually got one of your coins sitting on top. This is a whiskey friend coin on top of my Laphroaig 25, and I'm going to be revisiting that relatively soon. So thanks for stopping in, Alan.
Yeah, good to see you, man. Good to see you, Alan. Hopefully you get your hands on a couple of those bourbons we were chatting about the other day. I was telling him about that King of Kentucky, too. Two Silver knows what I'm talking about. Excellent, excellent bourbon.
So I've decided to pour some lore. I haven't had the lore in probably 2 years. So it'll be interesting, Mike, because you and I were just talking a little bit earlier about, price and how it would affect necessarily Laphroaig lore over the cask strength. And so this should be interesting. I haven't had this in so long. I'm actually really excited to take another sip of the lore. The lore,
I'll tell you.
Yeah, to give the specs on the lore for those of you who don't know, this is an NAS expression from Laphroaig, 48% ABV. It sadly does not tell us on the back what it's all aged in, but the general consensus is that the goal of this was to kind of give you a taste of like the entire history of Laphroaig in one bottle. So it's supposed to have a lot of different flavors. I believe it is. I can actually pull it up, but I think it's ex-bourbon, quarter cask, and I want to say a sherry. Let's just take a quick look. So the lore is, first fill sherry, first fill bourbon, refill bourbon, and then finished in European ex-sherry hogsheads. So 4 different casks going on in this one. Should be interesting.
Well,
Mike,
again, I'm sipping on this Laphroaig 10 cask strength. This is batch 11. Batch 11 isn't as punchy as the batch 10, but I got to tell you, the fact that I've warmed my palate up with 3 other Laphroaigs coming to this cask strength 10 right now, this probably has the second best nose behind the 25. It is just so full and rich.
Yeah, man. You can't go wrong with the Laphroaig 10 cask strength. That I was a huge fan, and you're right. I think it was not quite as punchy as the one from the previous year, but it makes up for it in kind of robust body and meatiness. Is something I noticed on that.
It is so meaty. It is so sweet. The smoke is thick, but it's rounded, if that makes sense.
Yep, totally.
Like it's just all encompassing. You ever seen the movie The Fog?
Did you just say
it doesn't matter? No,
it matters because that's one of my favorite movies of all time. And actually,
I love that movie. Which one? Like the original one, or you
like
the
original? Sure, the original.
Yeah.
But the one in 2005 doesn't even exist. Let's not talk about that. Man, you're speaking my language, brother. So
the one that had the woman on there in the lighthouse that was from Creepshow, the dark-haired woman.
Yeah.
I don't know her name, but absolutely that one. Like the smoke is that dense on the 10, and it's everywhere, right? It's everywhere. But you're watching the movie, so you're not like in the smoke, so you don't like taste the dampness of it. That's what I mean. It's thick and it's there, but it's just rounded. Like it's there. It's smoky. You can't see out the window. Yeah.
That's amazing. So 2 quick things off that movie before we I don't want to go too far on the rabbit hole. Number 1, I have a t-shirt that is like a design of that radio station that says Antonio Bay, California, KAB Radio, which is the station from that movie. Secondly, the director of that movie, John Carpenter, is
Love him.
Dude, so when I first started doing whiskey reviews, my channel was Rabbit and Red Whiskey Reviews, and that's from Halloween. Like in the opening car on the matchbook that the woman drops in the car, and it says Rabbit and Red Lounge, because I was going to do whiskey reviews and horror movie reviews, and that was going to be the first one I did. So that was the reference. And then I kind of started the horror movie thing. But dude, I'm totally with you. I love The Fog. It's an underrated film. Love John Carpenter. And
dude, I tell you what, on Netflix, we just got the director's cut of Harrison Ford, the robots.
Oh,
Blade Runner.
Blade Runner. Okay.
Didn't Carpenter direct that too?
I don't think he directed that, but he might have been involved with production.
Okay, I might be wrong with that.
The robot movie, which was Halloween 3: Season of the Witch, where there was like this weird Halloween deviation that had nothing to do with the storyline, but I digress. That's fun.
Yeah, we went down the rabbit hole for sure. Hey man, give me 1 second. I need to change my earbud, so carry me for 2 seconds.
Well, he does that. The fourth Laphroaig that we're doing, at least on my end, we did 3 similar ones. We've done the 25, the 18, and the 15, and now he's going into a 10 cask strength, and I have poured the Lord. And so folks were talking a little bit earlier. We had some folks who were big fans, some that thought it was good, not great. I haven't had a taste of the Laphroaig lore in, I want to say, upwards of 2 years. So I'm really looking forward to getting into this. And I can tell you right away on the nose, the lore, the nose of this reminds me more of the 25 in that. More than the 25 in that the fruity sweetness comes out. But there's an ashy, wow. This is kind of a mix of the 15 and the 25. Really interesting.
Are you getting any of that strawberry note, that red berry note that I always liked in that whiskey?
I'm definitely getting a red fruit note. It is a little bit more tart, so it's a little more berry on the berry side. I want to say, ooh. And then, oh man, there's that ashiness is there, but it's so nicely kind of, the edges are like chopped off of it. It's like nothing is too punchy and overbearing. It's a really incredible nose. Vanilla cream. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that Lore isn't a good whiskey. It is.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Macallan Rare Cask. Like you can tell there are some whiskeys in there that are really well done, old whiskeys that are really, really nice. Yeah. And if they were all that way, that's a $300 bottle. Well, Macallan Rare Cask is, but you know what I'm saying? You can tell there's some really quality stuff in there.
I know exactly what you mean. And the thing that's really exciting about this one is the amount of stuff is, as I was able to find out, there's 4 different, I guess, barrels in this, but unfortunately, no age statement, but like you said, put the Laphroaig lore at 15 years. That would be really interesting. It is still 48% though, which I give it major kudos for, but I got to tell you, the nose on this is just lovely. The ashy smoke is there, but it's really well infused with like a nice red fruit note, blueberry, pomegranate. There's the vanilla.
There is the berry notes in that lore. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off right there, but those berry notes in that lore was the thing that always stood out to me.
Yep. Yeah, they're there for sure. It's like you just opened opened up a because it's creamy too. It's not just like sharp, sweet, tart fruit. It's creamy. It's almost like you're like a berry yogurt to some degree. Wow.
See, that's why I almost would bet money there's always 20, 21 at least year-old whiskey in that on all the batches. You don't pick up those berry notes in a malt like Laphroaig until you hit 20 years. That's just my opinion. I've never had one anyway.
Oh wow. Huh. Wow, what a ride. The palate on this is really interesting. It's like stages. It's like you can so clearly mark where the notes shift in this. It's really interesting. It's like initially bourbony, peppery peat smoke, and then it just stops. And then it's like fruity, creamy fruit, vanilla, caramel, slight caramel, and then it goes into this just incredibly nice finish. The finish is just, again, ashy peat smoke in the background, but like really, really creamy fruit notes. I keep saying creamy because it's like, it's just so, it just goes right through this. It's like the lifeblood vein right through this whiskey. It's not punchy, but it is, the peat is definitely present. It's peatier or punchier than that 15 was. Yeah, wow. It had been a while since I've had this. This is going to be one of those whiskeys where, again, I'm going to just have to revisit and see what I can get out of it. But my initial feeling on it is, yeah, I feel pretty good about the lore right now.
Yeah, again, NAS has a bad rap, anymore, because there were plenty of bad NAS whiskeys. But, I mean, there are some that are really good. And the ones that I personally always gravitated to were the ones that transitioned, where you can tell the malt master, the master blender, whatever his title is, like really did his homework as far as, setting up essentially a show for you. Like, here's the opening act, here's the middle act, here's how we're going to close the show. Here's a little something else for you that you weren't expecting at the end. And there are some whiskeys that do that. Laphroaig Lore was always a pretty good whiskey as far as that. I always liked the Macallan Cast Strength in that regard. I always liked the Glenmorangie Signet in that regard, where you can tell there's a wide range as far as ages. But if everything can kind of add a piece to it, and not just try to dump some old casks or something, into some type of blend, it can really be something special.
Yeah, I'm also getting like a slight tobacco-y note on this too, and mint. Man, this finish just hangs on for a long time. This is a whiskey, like you just said about NAS, and maybe we can talk a little bit about the, the truths and falsehoods of the NAS thing. But like, wow, this is an NAS whiskey that I think challenges some of the general feelings that the NAS thing is, just a sign of the bad times. I mean, I feel like my general position on it, I guess, is that an age statement is better than not. But, I have a lot of NAS whiskeys that I really like. And I wouldn't sneeze. I mean, Ugadal, Corey Vrecken, even the Tomatin Kubakin, I think is a really solid whiskey. It has no age statement. I think we could all put together a pretty strong list of not age statement whiskeys that are that would be worth going to the mat over. Kilchoman, Mocker Bay, list goes on and on.
I always thought Kilchoman put an age statement on all their whiskeys. Am I wrong in thinking that?
No, yeah, there's not as far as I understand. I don't think there's any age statements on any of it. They might now be getting to a point where they're releasing some casks with age statements, but the Mocker Bay, I don't believe, has one. Let me just take
the Loch Gorm. For whatever reason, on the Loch Gorm, I seem to remember there being a 5-year-old age statement on there. I could be wrong. If anyone knows, let us know. But I'm pretty sure Loch Gorm has a 5-year-old age statement. I mean, I tell you what, that changed the way I thought about Ardbeg Ugadale. I used to think Ardbeg Ugadale, I mean, again, another good whiskey. I used to think that was, 10, 11, 12-year-old whiskey because it was more expensive than the 10. After having Loch Gorm from Kilchoman and seeing that 5-year-old age statement, I'm almost positive it said that. I'm thinking maybe Ugadale's 3 to 7-year-old whiskey now.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't. That's a whiskey too that I felt like has changed over time. I used to love that whiskey. It used to be chocolate and smoke. You know what I mean? But now it feels even younger than it used to. I don't know. Maybe it's just.
I've heard that a lot. I've not had a lot of the older releases of the Ugadal. The first Ugadal I had was probably 2016. It was right away my favorite whiskey I'd ever had. I haven't had a bottle in maybe a year, but I'll tell you that like I drank that with a steak once, and I was like, this is why I drink Scotch right here, because it was just freaking amazing. But I have heard that even older bottles are better, and now that I've had a lot more whiskey since the last time I had Ugadal, maybe I'll revisit it and it won't be quite as amazing. But the thing I liked about Ugadal is that for me, my wheelhouse is heavily peated whiskeys with sherry influence. So Laphroaig Distiller's Edition, Kilchoman, Sanag, and I'm going to try the Loch Gorm soon. Bunnahabhain.
Dude, you're gonna love the Loch Gorm if that's the truth. You're gonna love it.
I'm looking forward to it big time. I love most of the Cairdeas Laphroaigs. when you get the slight fruit sherry note in those deep, intense peaty scotches is just heaven for me. Here's a question for me, but I think this might also go to you, or a comment from whiskey friend Alan. I don't buy a lot of Laphroaig. However, the cask strength batch 10, batch 11, I am not a peat head, but I'm going through that bottle too quick. Amen to that, brother. And
yeah, man. I've had many bottles of batch 10. I've probably gone through 3 bottles of batch 10. I still have 2 more unopened. Very drinkable batch 10. 11, I'm just kind of getting to know 11, but again, they're all fairly consistent as far as what they are. And, this is one of those scenarios, man, where price comes into play. Mm-hmm. It's an easy one to go to if you just want, one, just a quick one, maybe, long day at the office or something. And, you're just going to have one whiskey. It's an easy, inexpensive, readily accessible whiskey to go to. And it's a great addition to the Laphroaig lineup. Again, in these times, not everyone's just scaling back. That's something that came out in the last, 5 years or so. And they've been keeping it going. And really, it feels like they're amping up production. Because I can always get them here in the States pretty easy. Yeah, man, just excellent whiskey. I have heard, though, after this batch 11, they're not going to have batch numbers on them anymore. It's just going to be called Laphroaig Cask Strength. And I haven't heard that from Laphroaig, but I've had a few whiskey reviewers write about it, and they say going forward, it'll just say Cask Strength and no batch number.
Wow, that's interesting. And maybe a little disappointing. I don't know. I'm getting a lot of love for NAS peated Islas, by the way. So it kind of talks about what we were just saying. They're now saying how old the Lochgorm is. Okay, so that's true. There you go.
Okay, so did they confirm the Lochgorm? I mean, I don't know about Oklahoma's, but I'm pretty sure Lochgorm had an age statement. Are they confirming that?
Yeah, they're confirming it in the chat. So I think what it is they don't have an explicit age statement. It's not like Lochgorm 8. It's more just like they put a vintage of distilled bottled, right?
That makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense. Which hey, that's just as good as an age statement. I can do math.
Yeah, I totally agree. So pivoting back just a second to Laphroaig, Mike, we've had 4 great Laphroaigs in the glasses so far tonight. I'd be curious, what was the first Laphroaig you had, or what was the first Laphroaig you had, and what was the first Laphroaig that made you just fall in love with the distillery?
The first Laphroaig I had, I fell in love with it. It was just a standard 10, 43% ABV. Still remember going to it. I was a Scotch fan. I was a big fan of Lagavulin 16. I was at a Mexican restaurant here in town. My youngest sister was originally married to this guy who ended up opening a couple of restaurants here locally. Really good food, and when I found Lagavulin 16, I wanted to talk about it with everybody. I was one of those guys that the first time I had it, it was amazing. Wanted to tell everybody about it. Couldn't get enough of it. So, when that happens, you start to notice other peated scotches on the bar. So, when we go to this Mexican restaurant, love to have a Lagavulin. They don't have Lagavulin, they have Laphroaig. And the guy there was knowledgeable enough to say, hey, it's, in the same island, it's a similar whiskey. Now, it isn't a similar whiskey, but I understand what he was saying. So anyway, it gives me a drink of Laphroaig, 43%, standard 10-year-old. And man, as soon as I drank that thing, just like the Lagavulin 16. Why different? The reaction was similar. The first time I drank it, I was like, oh, this is for me. Instantly. So, I got a bottle of the 10. The 10 was usually still is about a $45 bottle, $45-$50. Saw the 18 there. Again, that was about 100, but you're almost doubling the age. And the first time I had the 18, I thought it was worth every penny of the step up. I liked the punchiness of the 10. I think 12-year-old whiskey, if it's peated, is a good number. And then I like jumping up to the older ones, 18, and the 18 is still a spot for me that anytime I wanted a good, solid whiskey, and it was fall, winter, early spring, Laphroaig 18 was my go-to.
That's awesome, man. And was Lagavulin 16 your first peated scotch?
Absolutely. At that point, on my bar, I would have a couple tequilas, a couple vodkas, maybe a rum.
Yeah.
And, I'd have, the majority would be scotch, but, I'd have Macallan 12, Glenfiddich 12, just maybe, I think I had the Glenfiddich in 15 maybe, and Glenlivet 18. but that was about as far as I would go with it. I like scotches, but it was sort of a whiskey that I like to have either late at night, or excuse me, whiskey, a spirit I like to have late at night or in the wintertime when it was a little bit cold. And, in the summertime, maybe I drink a vodka or something like that.
Yeah.
But I remember it was, I'm here in Columbus. Ohio State was playing Wisconsin in a Big Ten title game maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And I went to the liquor store. They were out of Balvenie 15-year-old single barrel, which was about $100 at the time. And the guy who ran the liquor store said, "Hey, man, my favorite whiskey is Lagavulin 116. You should try this." And it was I liked the look of the bottle. I was willing to take a chance. Remember, I got it home, popped it. It was, it was a noon game, so it was about 10:30 in the morning. Took a drink of it, and it absolutely changed my life from the second it hit my lips.
Man, that's awesome. And like, that's what it's all about, man. Like, those are the types of things that brought us to the spots that we're in right now, man. It's like those moments that kick off the journey, right? Super cool. Yeah, I'll share mine, but just in a second. I just want to do a quick recap. We are at the 2-hour mark. It is Eric and Mike. I'm here with Mike from Mike's Whiskey Reviews. If you have yet to subscribe, do go over to his channel. Take a second, subscribe to Mike's Whiskey Reviews. He's doing kick-ass reviews, lots of peated scotches, lots of other stuff. You'll definitely enjoy the content that he's putting out. So do go check it out. Tonight we have tasted a lot of Laphroaigs for our little Laphroaig fest here. We've done a 25-year-old, an 18-year-old, and a 15-year-old. And we are now doing, I'm doing the Laphroaig Lore. Mike has got a 10 cask strength batch 11 from last year in the glass. Having a good time enjoying it. I hope everybody is got a good whiskey in the glass, and appreciate all the chat. Hope everybody's staying safe in these crazy times. I want to raise a glass to everybody, cilantro. So for me, peated scotch was not something I took to right away. I was a tequila fan. I drank a lot of tequila, and then switched to bourbon and got really into bourbon. And then one day, this was probably early 2016, mid 2016, I don't know, somewhere around there. Who's counting? And I was asked to go dog sit for a good friend of mine. This is when I was living in Washington, D.C. And I walked into his house, and he was like, "Hey, thanks for watching the dog. Here's I got a bar over here. Feel free to drink whatever whiskey you want." And I look over, and he's just got a bunch of bottles, and I'm like, "Oh shit, what's this?" And I grab a bottle of Oban 14, and so I poured a glass of Oban 14, and that was, I had drank enough spirit to the point where the kind of, Oban 14 is a whiskey that's got a little bit of everything happening in it. There's a little bit of the briny saltiness. It's got that Highland flavor, a little bit of that dryness, dark orchard fruit, dark fruit thing, slight amount of peat. So I got super stoked about it. I was like, holy shit, I must have drank a quarter of his bottle. I was like, sorry, man, this stuff is great. Ran to the store, got myself a bottle of Oban 14 a few days later, and I was feeling it. I'm like, oh man, I put it in my cabinet next to my 3 bottles of bourbon and 8 bottles of tequila. And so I went to this bar that was close to my house in DC, and they had a whole bunch of peated stuff, the kind of standard bar stuff. They had, the non-peated, and Macallan 12, Glenlivet 12, Glenfiddich 12. Then they had Laphroaig 10 and Talisker 10. And so I ordered the Talisker 10, absolutely hated it. And think about the pepperiness. I know everybody says that. And to this day, Talisker is one of my, I don't love the Storm. I don't love the Dark Storm. I don't love the 10. I do love their Distiller's Edition, and I'm trying to learn a bit about the 18. I have a bottle of it, but Talisker has just never been my thing. And so I was like, oh, man, I just don't like this smoky stuff. I went back there a few weeks later, and there was a guy sitting there, and I could just smell this car tire fire thing. And I was like,
yes, you can.
Yeah. I was like, hey man, what are you sipping on? Because I'm I was about to order another whiskey. I'm trying all these new scotches. I'm all into it. He's like, oh, this is Laphroaig 10. And I was like, Laphroaig 10. I was like, okay, so I ordered the Laphroaig 10, and I took a sip of it, and I was like, whoa. This is different. This was on a next level. And what I first got out of it was a licorice note, which I couldn't stand. So I just I let it sit for a while. I was like, I don't really want this. I had a beer, I had a water. I let it sit there. I didn't tell him to take it back. I had like 2 or 3 drinks. I came back to it, and all of a sudden it was just like, bam, perfect. I was like, oh shit, I get it now. And it was just contingent on like what had happened that night, the mood I was in, what I had drank. Somehow it just like connected with me. So the next day I went over to this liquor store where I bought the Open 14, and they had the Laphroaig, but they didn't have the Laphroaig 10. And I was like, shit. But they had this thing called the Laphroaig quarter cask, and it was $52 a bottle. And, I was like, oh, I paid $60 for the Open. This is a deal, right? That's how your brain thinks. This is a deal.
Sure.
Bought the quarter.
You're saving money.
Yeah. Saving money, yeah. So I brought home a bottle of the quarter cask, and like when I poured that, man, it was like nirvana. I was just like, holy cow. And then immediately I'm like reading about peated whiskey. I'm like, what is this shit all about? Like, because there's this perception out there that all Scotch is peated. But for me, the first real single malt I had wasn't a peated Scotch. I mean, really, it was Open 14. So I had a bottle of Open 14 and a bottle of Laphroaig quarter cask. I'll tell you, that bottle of Laphroaig quarter cask went in like 2 weeks. And I was off to the races after that. And so,
man, quarter cask is a great whiskey.
Yeah, it's stuck with me. I eventually did get a bottle of the 10, and then I tried the triple wood, and then I found the Laphroaig Cairdeas 2015, the 200th anniversary, and I found the Amontillado 2014. I bought both of those. Still got 2 unopened bottles of them. Loved it. And then got the lower, and then it was just over, right? And so it was just one of those moments, right? I could have easily, like, my instinct was to just be like, I don't want to drink this. I had those beers, but something made me go back to that Laphroaig after a couple beers, and it just clicked. And from there, it's off to the races, man. And I'm sure everybody's got moments like that when they try something for the first time, because Laphroaig and these peated scotches that we're drinking tonight, Mike, especially, I mean, these are whiskeys that most people just will recoil at. And for you and I, it's like, and for a lot of people in the chat, they're what we want. And it's interesting, right?
It's funny. You said earlier that you could smell that guy what he was drinking in the glass. I can't tell you how many times I've been out of the bar. Laphroaig is a whiskey that's always in bars. It's relatively inexpensive. You'll get it for $10 a glass or something. So I drink it quite a bit. And more than one occasion, I've been in some restaurant, having a bar, waiting for my seat, and someone's like, "What is that smell?" Not even knowing it's coming out of my glass. To where I'll never forget one time I was at this fish market. It's a Cameron Mitchell restaurant, and I have one. I'm there with my sister, and the guy's his back turned to me. And he's like 2 people down, and the guy's like, all of a sudden, like, "Man, what is that smell? Like, it smells like someone put a fish bacon on a fresh paved road or something." I was like, oh, he's talking about my drink. So I was just like, that's my Laphroaig here, man. He was like, what? I was like, it's this. And I was like, hey, man, smell it if you want. This is before coronavirus. I was like, smell it if you want. So I hand him the drink. And he smells. He's like, man, that smells terrible. And I was just like, so I pulled a line out of National Lampoon's Vacation. I was like, you think you hate it now? Take a drink. So the guy convinced him to take a sip. And to his credit, he says, oh, that's actually not half bad. I was like, yeah, you get past the nose, which some people love. The whiskey is still good whiskey. You remember that line when Clark Griswold was buying the car?
Yeah, yeah.
The guy who was trying to sell me, he was like, oh, Queen Family Truckster. He's like, you think you hate it now? Wait till you drive it. So I tried to work that in for that guy. I was like, obviously I'm a movie buff too. I was like, man, you think it smells terrible? Wait till you taste it.
Oh man, Mike, that's amazing. Yeah. And I bet, everybody in the chat who's a Pete head, like, has those moments. Like, there's a certain amount of like joy and satisfaction when you pour a peated Scotch for somebody and they like it. I've poured a lot of peated Scotch for folks over the years who are just like, they recoil at it. They're like, what the hell is that shit? Why would you pour this? This is awful. But then you get those people who are like, ooh, that's pretty good. And you're like, yes, a convert.
Yes.
Let me introduce you to Ardbeg. Let me introduce you to Kalila. Like, and it's just a lot of fun. And like, you find somebody who has that similar palate, and like, that's always a joy, because then you got somebody else who you can, talk to, and they're not going to recoil at your breath. because your breath
dude,
is like a dumpster fire, right?
I tell you what, it's just, it's funny, how much drinking has changed. I'm 43 years old. I was 21 in 1998. So, back then in the late 90s, it was beer, it was vodka, it was mixed drinks. I mean, it had something to do with the age. And even through, the early 2000s, I mean, people they didn't drink well. They didn't drink high-end spirits a lot of the times. If you're drinking tequila, it was, Cuervo or something like that. But I don't know what changed around 08, 09, 2010, but everyone started drinking better. I mean, again, I like tequila too. But I remember going from, your basic, Cuervo tequila to Patron, and then instantly going to Don Julio. Mm-hmm. And then it finally selling like the Don Julio 7th anniversary. And again, that was a $70 tequila, which is expensive for tequila anyway. But again, it just there was a weird shift as far as really getting high-end spirits. And man, I have a taste for them, all of them.
I totally agree with you. And it was interesting. I think I kind of got in right as the bourbon craze was kicking off. I mean, I liked bourbon. I, sipped some bourbon here and there over the years, but I mean, I wasn't a huge head. And, it was really like 2014, 2015 that bourbon became something I was into. And I still drink bourbon. I still like bourbon. There's a few that I chase that I'll review here and there, but for the most part, I've moved to single malt. And it's really actually funny. I'm looking back into the chat here, and there's a lot of folks talking about their first times, and I'm going to share a couple of these with us.
Oh, for sure. Let's hear it.
Daniel said Ardbeg 10 is my first after Jim Murray rated it #1, so I tried it. I thought, what the hell is wrong with this dude? Little did I know that it would become my first. Oh, man, cheers for that. That's hilarious. Laphroaig 10 was my intro into P discussion. Hey, Silver Lock Whiskey Club. I'm not sure we met before, but thanks for swinging by. Cheers. And yeah, man, Laphroaig 10. Gotta love it. Mr. Angel, nice to see you too. Laphroaig 18, best bang for the buck. Silver Lock's it back in 2018. Oh, there's some good ones in here. Love the Oogie. Oogie was there first. Whiskey Scout, you mentioned it, so he's pouring some Talisker 10.
Yeah, man, I got to tell you, so I don't forget to go back to that, man. Talisker, I tell you what, they make some good whiskeys. 18's a good one. It needs some time to open up a little bit, but, man, I got a couple, I got three, no, not three anymore. I got two now. Old Talisker 25 cast strengths.
Oh, God.
Man, those are next level. I have a normal bottle, the 25, the 45.7. Actually, man, there's a good sale. If anyone wants the Talisker 25, the new version 45.7, if you go to Ace Spirits, they're out of Minnesota.
Oh, I know
that bottle for. They sell a bottle for $249.
Yeah, they had a bottle of the 30. They had a bottle of the 30 year for $300 for a while, but it sold out. I was going to drop into it.
$299. I bought 3 of them. I told D2 Silv he got one of them. I was the one. I flapped my lips about that in a whiskey review, and then they were gone like in a week. But yeah, you're right. They had that 30-year-old for $299. That was a great deal. I still have one bottle unopened. But man, I tell you what, those whiskeys pale in comparison to the 25 cast strengths from like 04, 05, 06, 07.
I can only imagine. God, I can only imagine.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought
totally different whiskey.
25. Yes, cheers, Fisk. Great story. One of my favorite barbecue foods, so I had no chance. Immediately fell in love with Ugadal. Andrew Page, my first peated scotch was HP 12, Highland Park 12, but it was Ardbeg 10 that connected me. Oh, yeah. Ardbeg 10, God. Ugadal I had for the first time on New Year's Eve 2018. I remember I was over at that same person's house where I had the open, and he had the Ugadal, and I was like, oh, I got to try this. And I was just like, I remember I was walking around the party like, have you guys tried this? And they're like, no joke. I was like a freaking televangelist about that stuff. It was hilarious.
Your buddy's probably telling you to shut up because that's his expensive stuff and he doesn't want anyone else digging into the bottle.
Yeah.
Who's this guy, man? You need to have him on the channel. He obviously has a taste.
I know. I should. I haven't talked to him in a couple of years. Or a year or two. I should get him on. Daniel said, am I the only one who, when I pass by Laphroaig 10 in a grocery store or something, when you already own a bottle or two, stop and pick it up and look at it? Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome, man. Jay McNeil piles on, says it does that too. Silverlock. HP12 is very nice, sort of a civilized version of Isla Malt. Yeah, dude, HP12, I did a top 5 go back to Whiskey's video about 2 years ago. HP12 was my number 1 on that. Highland Park 12, for me, is one of those whiskeys that if I don't know what I want to drink and I just want to have a dram, I'll pour that and I'll never be disappointed. It's just like it's right in there. That's like kind of the good role it has. Oh,
I tell you what, all Highland Park age statement whiskeys are good whiskeys. If Highland Park has an age statement on it, it's a solid offering. I don't like their NAS nonsense, though. A lot of those whiskeys are overpriced, overrated. I mean, even, I've had Fire and Ice, terribly overrated whiskeys and overpriced.
I can't.
You know what I mean?
Like, there are so many of those. Like Valknut, Valkyrie. Like I go on and I look at liquor shops online and I'm like, holy Christ. Like, there's so many Highland Parks out now that, like, I can't keep track of half of them. Ben Demon Hunter's heading out. Cheers, buddy. Thanks for swinging by.
I will say something good about Valknut, though. I actually, D2 Sil convinced me to have that one time in Cincinnati, and it was surprisingly good. It is, there's twice as much peated barley in the Valknut, if I'm not mistaken, compared to normal Highland Park. So it's a smokier Highland Park, and it was actually a pretty darn good whiskey.
I have not had any of those NAS ones. I've really only had the 12 and then the 12 Viking Honor, if you want to say they're different. I have a bottle of the 15, which I haven't opened it, and I'm going to soon because I just have to taste it. I don't know why I've been waiting so long on that one. It's still sitting in the box somewhere. I've had the 18 Viking Honor or Viking Pride, whatever. It's just the 18.
Viking Pride.
I've had the 18, and that's actually the extent of the Highland Parks I've had, mostly because, kind of like you just mentioned, Mike, when I go online and, like, I can't make heads or tails of it. There's so freaking many. Oh, I've also had the Magnus, which is the NAS below the 12, which is like fine, $35. That wasn't the worst thing I've had. It wasn't bad, though. I shouldn't hate it. It really wasn't that bad. But I can't make heads or tails of all these. And they're exorbitant prices. There's the, like you were saying, the Fire and Ice are like $400, $300. I'm like, I don't, like, what are you? Crazy, like, packaging. I can't keep up with Highland Park. That said, their core spirit I like. Yeah, Highland Park 12 is fine. It's a totally great whiskey. I haven't had any of the older age statement stuff. And I have... as I was mentioning to you on the phone earlier, I do have a bottle of a Highland Park single cast 12-year, which I'm going to do up for my 100th whiskey review. Which I'm really looking forward to because I love the 12, and this one's also a 12-year. But yeah, I'm with you, man. There's I don't know which NAS to get, which one not to, and that's the thing about it is they're just so expensive. Like, I'm just not willing to roll the dice on an $85, $90 bottle of some Highland Park, Viking Gladiator bottle. Like, I'm like, I don't know what this is.
Always keep in mind that Highland Park is distributed by Edrington, who also distributes Macallan. Mm-hmm. So that's the parent company. I mean, all they have to do to complete the trifecta is buy Ardbeg, and they'll have the most overpriced lineup in Scotch whiskey. It bothers me because, I know a lot of people have a negative attitude about Macallan. I personally, I love Macallan and I love Highland Park. I just love certain bottlings of both of those whiskeys. Highland Park to me, though, is balance in the Scotch whiskey industry. There's Balvenie that's light and approachable, but it has its own signature thing. It's a honeyed whiskey. At least that's the way I think of it. But if someone were to ask me what is the most balanced distillery or the most balanced whiskey I can buy, I'd absolutely go to Highland Park and probably say the 18. You get a little bit of honey, you get a little bit of smoke, you get a little bit of sherry, you get a little bit of oakiness and woodiness. I love, in general, what Highland Park does. Just sadly, they have been so popular that they don't have enough good whiskey left.
Yeah. Luis here is saying HP12 was the first whiskey ever. That's a good place to start. You got a little bit of everything when it comes to the Scotch single malt range in the bottle of Highland Park 12. You get a little taste of what you can get at. It's like, a little bit of sherry, a little bit of bourbon, a little bit of peat. Can't go wrong with the Highland Park 12. That's a good first pour. Cheers. I'm with you on that, Mike. I'd be curious. You mentioned in your comment that you think if they picked up Ardbeg, they would have the trifecta of most overpriced single malts. Do you think which of the line of Ardbeg do you think are overpriced?
So basically, what I meant by that is Ardbeg is, generally speaking, for an age statement, the most expensive peated whiskey, and I'll get into that in a second. Macallan is the most expensive age statement sherried whiskey, and Highland Park's in the middle. There aren't really a lot of people that do balance, but it just kind of completes it. With Ardbeg, though, again, don't get me wrong, I love Ardbeg whiskeys. I mean, I have Ardbeg 21, 22, 23, 19. I bought 50 bottles of Ugadale in my life. I bought half a dozen Corey Breckens. I think the core 10-year-old is great value. It's usually $50 roughly. It's 46% ABV, which is a nice step up from Laphroaig's 43 or Lagavulin 43. Unchill filtered, uncolored. It's kind of the basic whiskey. To me, it's just peat, lemon, and lime, and vanilla. You know what I mean? It's four things. You know what those four things are going to be. But it's like a sports car. You know what I'm saying? It's like a Mustang or a Camaro. Like, it's going to be V8 engine. You're going to go straight, super fast. I don't know how good it's going to be on the corners. I don't know how nice the seats are going to be. You probably don't want to drive it for 1,000 miles. But, it's basic, but you know what that is. You know what to expect. So Ardbeg 10, solid offering. I think for what they charge for the Ugadale and the Corey Brecken, that I suspect the majority of those whiskeys are younger than 10 years old. And they may throw in some 10, 12, 13-year-old whiskey to round it out. But in general, I think those whiskeys are well under 10 years old as far as an age statement. I think they're getting to where they're expensive. I mean, Corey Brecken for me is $90 here. That's Lagavulin 16. Now, the trade-off is Corey Brecken and Ugadale are well above 50% ABV. They're high ABV whiskeys. Not cast strength, but high ABV whiskey. So you got to balance that in. But I feel that those whiskeys have gotten overpriced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when you look at the 19-year-old that they came out with this year, I don't know what it's like for you, but here in Ohio it's $300. That's an expensive 19-year-old whiskey. I mean, again, the only other non-20-year-old whiskey that I know that's non-20 years old and non-cast strength is Macallan 18. Another Edrington product.
Right, and that one's over 200. I've never had it strictly because of the price.
Macallan 18?
Yeah.
I got a couple of 1993s. When I open them up, I'll send you a sample.
Right on, man. I've actually never had the Macallan 18. So my general feeling on kind of what you said there is, I see your point. I think so let me say this. I have found shops online that sell Ugadal and Corey Brecken in the 60 to 70 range. I think those are good prices for those whiskeys, but I agree with you that over 80 is too much for those, especially when you talk about Corey Brecken, which I have seen upwards of $100, which is
it's like $92 right now.
Yeah, that is really pricey. So I think I'm with you on that, and I appreciate you kind of saying more about it. I think part of it is that I loved the Ugadal so much that like $80 seemed reasonable. I don't think I would go over 80 for Ugadal. And, I'm frankly, I haven't had one in, over a year. And so I'm not sure if, as you mentioned, like it's getting younger and stuff like that. But yeah, that's a good point. I think the Anno is the worst of their core range and is 70 some bucks in some places, which is just kind of expensive. I got a bottle of the Ardbeg Black, which was, their committee release.
Say it right. Say it right.
Yeah, their committee was in that 120 range.
Yep.
And now they're 140. Now I understand there's the tariff and stuff, but I think that price will stand. I mean, I think 140 was cheap, to be honest. I've heard people paying upwards of 160 for it at like Total Wine, right? So I'm kind of with you on that, with the exception of the 10, right? I think the 10 is priced right, and like you get a lot bang for your buck.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's
agreed. But here's the thing. Every year they come out with a community release and, a yearly release. Perpetual One in 2015 was garbage. 2016 was Dark Cove. That was worth $100 for the non-committee release. Then what was it? Grooves, then Drum. I didn't like any one of those.
It was
Kelpie.
Yeah.
I didn't like Kelpie. I sure didn't like it for $100 for 46% ABV and NAS.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's part of my problem with Ardbeg as well is Ardbeg has in the core range the 10 and then NAS whiskeys. Like they have the basic offering. Like, okay, so we've been talking Laphroaig tonight, right?
Yeah.
Laphroaig starts at the 10 and it just goes up from there.
Yeah.
15, 18s, 25s. No, they don't have the 15, 18 anymore, but they have the 16 now. You know what I mean? They still have the 25. So they have age statements that are regularly available and decently priced. The Laphroaig 10 normal one's $45. The cask strength is 63, almost 1-to-1 perfect. The 25, I get my hands on those all the time for $450 to $500.
Yeah.
With Ardbeg until this year, with the 19, there was just, hey, we found these casks from Chevis. We're going to parcel them out at 21, 22, 23, and 25 years old in small quantities, charge an arm and a leg for them. Charge $500 for a 21-year-old whiskey. I guess going back to my original statement with Edrington and Macallan and Ardbeg, the only 21-year-old whiskeys I can think of that are non-cask strength, not even 50% ABV, and they're still $500 is Ardbeg and Macallan.
And Spring.
Okay, you're right. Well, Spring makes about $350. Spring make is $350, a higher ABV. I mean, $350 to $500 is a big step up.
Agreed.
And then when you look at a sub 20-year-old whiskey, so Macallan 18 and Ardbeg 19, those are $300 whiskeys.
Yeah.
Name me another non-cask strength whiskey that's non-cask strength and not 20 years old that's $300. And again, it's the usual suspects. Ardbeg, Macallan. Those two. In my opinion. And again, I love the distilleries. I wish they were cheaper. It's just they are ultra premium for age statements.
Some of those Bunnahabhain Moyniers are up there, but those are also kind of exclusive special. So I kind of, I'm you know what, I think your point is convincing here. I think that, with Macallan especially, I notice it more, and I think it might just be because I'm like much more in tune to not wanting to pay a lot for Macallan. Like I mean, I'll be real with you. I've not bought any of the Ardbeg age statements exclusive releases that they put out because of the cost. I was like, I would love to try an Ardbeg 20-year-old, but for $300, I'm like, no, like I'm just not willing to do it. And so I'm kind of with
buddy, you can't even get an Ardbeg 20-something-year-old for $300. You got to pay $450, $500.
Yeah, that's too much. You're right. Yeah, I'm with you.
I mean, again, look at it this way. Laphroaig 18 to me is at least on par. Some people might like Ardbeg 19 better than Laphroaig 18. I personally don't. I would personally take a Laphroaig 18 over an Ardbeg 19. Now, Laphroaig 18 was $100 retail. Secondary market, it's $175, $200.
Right.
Ardbeg 19 at a lower ABV is, again, $300.
Do you think they do that because they're only not releasing it and they don't have the amount of volume for those as they do or they say that they don't, right? They claim that they don't have the volume level that they would have, say, for like a standard release, like a Highland Park 18, right? Or like a Macallan 18. Like they're right. And it's debatable, right? Like who knows? What I read about those older age statement Ardbegs, and maybe you know more about this, but they claim that this is from some old stock they had. There's only X amount of bottles. Therefore, like these are like once they're gone type things, which again, I don't think totally accounts for the fact that they're upwards of $450, $500, which is definitely driven by like fanboys and because they think they can get it, honestly. But I do wonder if there's a subtle distinction in that those were released in a way that claimed, and I might be wrong about this, but from what I remember, claimed that these were like, we have 6,000 bottles of it, or we have, whatever. Now, I don't think that takes away from the fact that it's too expensive for a 19-year-old whiskey, but there's no
so
Macallan 18, right?
Correct. So with Ardbeg, you understand it was mothballed sometime in the 90s.
Right.
Okay. So we're talking about two different whiskey. We're talking about when we say the 19 and then the 20-something series that's come out over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
We're talking about two different distillates. So the old stills are not what you're getting the new 19-year-old. So the 20-something series, what that is, they sold, I believe, if I read correctly, 250, 280 barrels to Chevis as they closed the distillery up that was distilled with the old stills and sealed distillate.
Yeah.
Ardbeg bought those back from Chevis. And then that was the 20-something series, first the 21, then the 23, then the 22.
Right.
And I heard they're coming out the 25. Now, the 19-year-old that we got this year is the new stills, is the new distillate of Ardbeg. So that was when they started back up production. And again, it's been about 19 years. So it's the oldest whiskey. This is the whiskey that was first coming off the stills is what we got in the 19-year-old. So if you want old distillate Ardbeg, that's why the 21, 22, and 23 were $500 whiskeys. The 19-year-old, it's just the first age statement other than the 10 they've even been able to come out with since they reopened the distillery.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a distinction. Having said that, I don't think once they're able to release a 21-year-old on a regular basis, it wouldn't shock me again if it was $500. It wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm interested, in your being somebody who maybe has some interest in Macallans. What are your thoughts on any?
Buddy, I have plenty of interest in the Macallan. I've reviewed the 25, the rare cask, the 18, the 21 fine oak. I've had the 30 fine oak. I love Macallans.
What are your thoughts on any of the edition series? I mean, obviously I don't know if you have edition 1, but have you had any of the other ones?
I tried edition 1. I was not a big fan of it taste wise. That is super, that was a whiskey I didn't see coming as far as value. It was about $96, $97 here, and they sat on the shelves for a year and a half here in Columbus, Ohio. As a matter of fact, the guy that I know in the local town that brings in a few whiskeys for me, he asked me to buy some because they weren't selling. Think about that, for $100. Those things go $800 in the secondary market. So I had one. I wasn't impressed. I was so not impressed with it, I didn't even review it. Let me put it to you that way. I never bought 2, 3, or 4. Now, I've heard, I think 3 was a pretty good whiskey. I haven't bought any of them since then.
Yeah.
To me, when it comes to Macallan almost starts at that 18-year-old. The 12's okay.
Yeah. There's so
15-year-old fine oak is okay.
There's so many better 12-year-old sherries in that range, in that price range, that
And they're expensive.
Yeah, no, right. They're like upwards of $60. I mean, the Glendronach 12 is at the same price point. I think it's an exponentially better whiskey. I mean, even if you get Glenfarclas, it's like $20 cheaper than that. And so, yeah, that's an interesting point. The edition series, I've had all of them except for the 1. I really liked the 4. The other ones, and we're back in this range of like NASs that are bottled at high ABV that are $100, right?
So here's the trick. Here's what everyone chased. Macallan cask strength that they discontinued in 2009 or 2010. Sometimes they had a 10-year-old age. Yeah, sometimes they had a 10-year-old age statement. Sometimes they had no age statement.
Yeah,
that whiskey was always $88, and really the argument was back in 07, 08, 09 is, do you buy a Macallan 18 for $169 or do you buy a Macallan cask strength for $88? Now, that whiskey was a dynamite whiskey. Now they don't make anything close to it. They came out with the additions. They came out with the classic cuts, and I fell for it. I tried hoping to recapture some of that magic of the old cask strength Macallan. But that's not a cask strength Macallan. That is just some newfangled mess that they put out there to try to confuse you that this could be even somewhat what the cask strength used to be, because that is truly a gem of the whiskey. Cask strength, old cask strength Macallan then you got to go to the 18. I'm a fan of the Fine Oak 21 and then the 25. And for what they charge for those now, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, they're the cost prohibitiveness of those are again. I mean, you can get other heavily sherried, whether it's Oloroso or otherwise, Highland malt that are going to cost you $75 less than that Macallan 18 that are 18 years old. I mean, you like Glendronach Allardyce. I mean, which I think is
dude. I tell you what, Glendronach ruined Macallan for me as far as a whiskey that I drink because I know they were older, but that Glendronach 12-year-old, I think I did a comparison Glendronach 12 versus Macallan 12. Glendronach 12 was a better whiskey. Glendronach 18, I enjoy. I'm not saying it's a better whiskey than the Macallan 18, but I enjoy it more.
Yeah,
I just like that over the top sherry punch. In 15-year mark, forget about it, man. That old Glendronach 15, that was an excellent whiskey.
Yep.
And the 15-year-old Macallan Fine Oak, or if you were able, I had a couple of the 1984 and 1985 Macallan 15-year-old Cherry Oak. Forget about it. I don't care what anyone wants to charge you for that. That old Glendronach 15-year-old blows the Macallan 15-year-old, any version away.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Yeah, I agree. And I wonder, like, to some extent, I mean, it's clearly this has been a marketing ploy, and it's working because they keep doing it. And yeah, I mean, I think, for me, when I think about 18-year-olds that I want to invest in over the course of the next year or so, like Macallan doesn't even come on my radar. I'm just like, I just can't do it for that price. I mean, I can get a bottle right now of an Enoch 24-year-old. If you want to talk strictly age statement, I can get an Enoch 24 cheaper. I can get an old Pulteney 18 exponentially cheaper than any Highland Park. Even things like Glendronach, even Allardyce, which we've seen the prices go up for, you can get just incredibly cheaper. And you're not losing much on the value, in my opinion. And that's why I think the 18 is one of those whiskeys that, like, unless you really have the capital to just throw around, try it at a bar once, like that. You got to try that before you're going to invest that type of money in it, because that's a crazy price for a whiskey that old. Ball Blair. I mean, you get a Ball Blair, which I think is probably the Ball Blair. I have a couple of the Ball Blair 1990 second releases, which are 25 years old. I got those
25 years old, yeah.
$150. So,
no, I reviewed that Ball Blair 25-year-old 1990. Excellent whiskey for the money. I mean, excellent. Yeah. And again, I mean, that's the rub. It's just, I mean, Macallan always did sherry whiskeys really well. I personally loved the Macallan cask strength because I like high ABV whiskeys. I loved that whiskey. But as far as, I mean, if you're talking just 18-year-old, no more cask strength, 43% whiskey, Glendronach has a better offering. Yeah.
I mean, you can get a Parliament 21-year-old cheaper, I think, than you can the Macallan 18 at this point.
Oh, that's a better whiskey.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
And it's 48%, not 43.
Yeah. So the Macallan, the old Macallan cask strength, was that age stated or was it also NAS?
Sometimes they would put a 10-year-old age statement. Usually it would just say Macallan cask strength and not have any age statement on it. Occasionally they would have a 10-year-old age statement. But everything I've been able to read, it's 8, 9, 10-year-old whiskey all the time. Depending on, how the cask is. Because I tell you what, Macallan does spend, or at least did spend, a lot of money on some really good casks. And I think Macallan has some average casks today, but I still think, I mean, they probably have, I don't know, I'm guessing 100,000 casks at the low end, maybe 250,000 casks. Who knows?
Right.
They have a ton. So there are definitely some good casks now. Yeah, because what I've seen with them is they have this exceptional cask series where they charge $2,000-$3,000 for a bottle that's cask strength. It's a 14-year-old whiskey or a 16-year-old whiskey. So they still do spend the big dollars to get some really, really quality casks. But it feels like once they get a couple casks that do really well, then they'll bottle them separately, call it the exceptional cask series, and mark it up, tenfold.
I hear you.
Yeah, but man, I tell you what, that old cask strength Macallan 10 or the non-age statement one, either one you got, it was $88, man. That was one of the best buys in the whiskey world right there.
We can pine for the good old days, man. Those days are gone. Another one that I think could fall into the line on this challenge is Glenallachie. the Glenallachie, they just released a 15-year-old Oloroso PX cask, which is basically, you know, right in that kind of wheelhouse, which is $80. And, you know, comparatively, like, come on, right? It's tough to say. Yeah,
something I always wonder about with whiskey is, you know, how many times do you think to yourself, okay, I buy a can of soda, you know, for 75 cents. I wonder how much they have in the product. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, say the can costs 8 cents to make, and then you got to put the label on, and then you got to ship it, and you got to put it, you know, in a vending machine. You got to pay a guy to do that. You got to pay people to do it. How much money do they really have in the end product? I often wondered, how much do they really have in a 25-year-old whiskey? Because I mean, I remember the days when Glenfarclas 40 in the pink tube, or the wasn't really pink. It was kind of like a fuchsia colored tube.
Yeah.
It was 46% ABV. It was always $350. Always.
Yeah.
You know, in the old Macallan cast strengths for 88. I sometimes wonder, really, I get demand, supply and demand, but I really wonder what they actually have as far as capital investment in this whiskey.
That would be a good question to answer, because, man, your brain runs wild thinking about it. Who knows? I got to step away for just a sec. Are you good to man the fort and chat with folks while I'm gone? I'll be gone for just a minute.
Yeah. I'll go into some comments, and
when I get back,
I'll catch up the best I can.
Pour of the 25 that we laid out. So I'll be right back.
Sounds good. All right, Frenchie, I see you love edition number 4. Again, haven't tried that one, but might try to take a look at it, man. If you think that's a solid offering, like I said, the first one was okay. I think I did have the 3rd version. So if you think the 4 is a solid offering, I know some place where I can get it. Let's go down here. Yeah, Rob talking about the tariffs. Shout out to the tariffs. You know, here in Ohio, Rob, I know a couple of guys who do business with the state liquor store, which Ohio's liquor controlled. They raised dark spirits a few months back, and Macallan's raised the price twice in 2019 before the tariffs came out, and then didn't raise it after the tariffs came out. So it's hard to tell, man. It's hard to tell if it was really the tariffs or not. Daniel kept picking up HB Dark Origins. You know, Daniel, Dark Origins wasn't bad, man. I agree. I know a lot of people like the 12 better than the Dark Origins, but not me. I actually preferred the Dark Origins to the 12. I think it's another one where Dustin had me drink that, and I was kind of impressed with it. Jason Fisk, great history, Mike. I didn't realize that about the closing of Ardbeg and buying those casks back. Yeah. So Jason, man, everything that I read was it was either 250 or 280 barrels that Ardbeg at some point sold to Chevis. I'm guessing back in the early 90s when peated whiskey was not popular at all. And Chevis was going to use it in some blends and never got around to it, or maybe they used a portion of what they sold, and 250 or 280 barrels were just what was left. But from everything I've been able to read, that is what they brought back to Ardbeg, or bought back from Chevis, and used for the 20-something series. Now, again, not the 19-year-old, the 20-something series. So you're getting the old distillate. Look, edition number 4. What else we got here? Andrew, agree with you, Mike, especially considering the one-offs from Ardbeg and the Laphroaig. Yeah, you know, every year Ardbeg is going to come out with a random gimmicky NAS whiskey. Like every year they have to hand out the NFL Super Bowl. Someone's going to win it. Someone's going to win it. Whether or not they were worthy of winning this year compared to last year or years before, someone's going to win the Super Bowl every year. Just like the World's, well, not this year maybe, but in general, someone's going to win the World Series, someone's going to win the Super Bowl, and Laphroaig's going to come out with a gimmicky release every year. I have not liked one, or not been blown away by one since the Dark Cove, but, you know, don't let my negativity towards those yearly specials turn you off. You never know when the next Dark Cove, and never know when the next really good offering is going to come. So always keep your eyes out for them. If you're an Ardbeg lover, I would never discourage you from buying the yearly releases, especially the community releases.
Yeah, and to hop in and piggyback on that, I think despite the drum being underwhelming, the grooves being decent but not amazing, the Kelpie being decent but not amazing, The new one, Ardbeg Black, I did a review of it. The committee released a few weeks ago. Pinot Noir cask. I feel like they've turned around the string of less than amazing whiskeys. I think this one might be a real winner. I'm really curious to see what happens with the oxidization on that. But yeah, I think to Mike's point, and I think he was able to really articulate it in a clear and knowledgeable way about just kind of what you see with a lot of these Ardbegs. And, you know, especially the age statement ones that are coming out, those prices are just way too much. So it's a tough haul. And for someone like me, I've never been willing to throw down that kind of money on it. But I'm actually I've had this Laphroaig 25 sitting here for upwards of 45 minutes. And I'm thinking I'm going to pop this thing open and, pop off this top and see what's happened to this. You still got your 25 Laphroaig in the glass, Mike? Nice.
Right here, buddy.
Sláinte.
Right here.
Cheers. Oh, man. Boy, it is nice revisiting that.
I have that in the cast strength 10-year-old just to kind of balance it out.
Wow. So this is interesting. After sitting in the glass for how long, the tropical notes have taken a little bit of a step back. It feels like things are a little more harmonious now.
Oh man, but is it just this whole and rounded?
Yeah, it's just
so approachable.
This whiskey just begs to be sipped. It's really just incredible. Like I've said, I've held the 18 in a little higher regard, partially because of price, but boy, this 25 is something else. There's such a nice, sweet, brightness that comes through with this. Despite all of that like turbulent smoke in the background and that kind of bonfire note, it's like it's in the distance and it's just slowly coming into your, pineapple grill. Man.
You know what it's like, man? It's like a cloudy day where you just get the sun rays, a few rays in here and there of that sunshine.
Yeah.
But the cloud isn't like in a normal, like rain cloud. It's a snow cloud. Yeah, you got 6 or 7 rays just coming through.
It's like the fog. Oh man,
it's like the fog, but daytime.
Yeah, right.
More of it.
Boy, yeah. Revisiting this Laphroaig 25 after about 40 minutes is a great bookend to the Laphroaig tasting because, boy, it's where we started and it's where we have come back to. It's really, really fantastic stuff. And yeah, this is one I really got to say. I think looking back on the four that I've tasted tonight, the 25 has actually taken a step forward compared to, I think, other times I've had it. I mean, let me be clear. This was great the first times I've had it, but I like it. I'm liking it even more tonight. The 18 still never disappointing. The 15 is going to take a little work, and the lore actually also surprised me and reminded me how much I loved it. I think I would go 25 and 18 are right there together. Lore 15 is where I'm at, but tomorrow that might be a little bit different. Who knows? This 15, I think, has got a lot of things to explore, and I opened a fresh bottle of the lore and the 15, so these are both things I'm going to have to re-examine a little bit as I go along. But boy, the 25 and the 18, man, these are whiskeys that folks need to get their hands on if they love peated Scotch. That's for sure. Yeah,
going back to this, I have a little dram of the 10 and a little dram of the 18. And I know we talked before about, is it really worth 4 or 5 18s as compared to 125? Because again, the 18 does bring you 80-85% of what the 25 does, but having this sit out for an hour while we were chatting, no water, and just letting it open up naturally, my goodness.
Yep.
I would probably reverse the decision and say, you know what? If you're going to have one Laphroaig, you owe it yourself to try this 25. Yeah. It's just magic.
Yes, Ben.
It's just magic.
We are talking about the 25.
I mean, the thing is, I've had better Laphroaigs. I mean, again, Laphroaig 32, Laphroaig 30, they're better Laphroaigs. But they're also twice as expensive. And it's close. But what I love about the Laphroaig 25, if you only have had Laphroaig 10, you will recognize Laphroaig and Laphroaig 25. Where in maybe like the 32 or something else, it's such a artisan style whiskey that you might not really pick up what it is.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when you drink, when you nose and you taste Laphroaig 25, you can see some of that 10-year-old in there.
Yeah.
You can see the similarities just done so much better.
Yeah, and again, like you mentioned early on when we started, the thing that's standing out for me on this is that it's got that tropical fruit note. It's like pineapple, mango.
Yes.
That pops out of the glass that just wasn't there before. It's like almost like grilled pineapple, right? It's grilled pineapple. It's that fruity, juicy mango thing. Like, you just don't get that off of the 18. I think
it's like pineapple that has grill marks on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you know what I mean?
Like
yeah. It's like the round pieces, and you threw them on the grill a little bit, so it's got like some burnt crisp of something that you put on there, like hamburger meat or something. Yeah, it's like that.
Yeah, exactly. Really great whiskey.
Oh man, excellent.
So interested, like, you know, you've mentioned that you've got to taste a lot of Laphroaigs over the years. Do you have any interesting stories or experiences of landing yourself a really good Laphroaig at a good price, or just like general anecdotal stories? I definitely have one to tell you, which I mentioned on the phone, about probably the best deal I've ever got on a bottle of whiskey, and it was a Laphroaig.
I will tell you a Laphroaig story. I don't know if it's any of those things you mentioned, but it was the most angst I ever had in a purchase, and the most money ever made reselling a bottle, and the reason I won't ever resell a bottle again. So let me get started. I was in a local bar in Columbus, Ohio, with a customer, and in this little suburb called Grove City, very salt of the earth type place, just to kind of set the scene for you. A bar that had two scotches, Balvenie 12 Doublewood and Laphroaig 10. So I'm drinking the Laphroaig 10. There with my customer, and a guy, a few persons down, starts this conversation with me about me liking Laphroaig. And he says, well, hey, man, I'm moving to Germany, and I can't bring alcohol into the country. So I have a Laphroaig 40-year-old, 1946 bourbon only. Didn't have any sherry cask maturation in it. Cask strength. Do you want it? I was like, well, obviously I'm interested. What do you think it's worth? So he was telling me what they went for at auction. It was, around 8,000 or whatever. And he wanted, I don't know, $6,500 or whatever. So I was like, man, I'm sorry. I just can't afford that. And, that's more than I ever thought about spending on a bottle of whiskey. But we did exchange information. He said, well, let me get home. Let me send you photos of the bottle, yada, yada. So, I'm not moving until this date. So I was like, hey, man, if you can get it, that's great. So he gives me a call the day before he's going to leave. Never talked to the guy on the phone in my life. Like, we exchanged information because he texted me the pictures. That was it. Didn't have him on my phone. And he says, hey, look, man, they're going to charge me this much to get it, or this much to send in the auction house. Do you want the bottle? I'm like, look, man, I don't have $6,500, to buy for this bottle, yada, yada. So he sells it to me for, I think, $4,875. It was right just under $5,000. So I had this Laphroaig 40, and all I want to do is open it up and drink it, man. But instantly I have buyer's regret, right? Instantly I'm just like, I cannot believe I spent this much money on this bottle. It was, stupid. Shouldn't have done it. Like someone who's won out and, bought a Ferrari or something. So I decided to check some interest on a local group that's a secondary market. And I was like, hey, guys, look, this is worth $8,000. Anyone wants it, $7,500. And then instantly, like within 3 minutes of me posting this, instantly, guy, $7,500, buy it now. And then for the second time on the same bottle of whiskey, I had remorse. As soon as he hit that buy it now, I thought to myself, oh my God, I shouldn't have sold this bottle.
Oh man.
So I never got a chance to open it up and try that Laphroaig 40. I'll send you a picture of it at some time, maybe tomorrow. Never got a chance to buy it. Randomly walk into a bar where, the average bar tab was probably $25. A guy recognizes me drinking Laphroaig, brings up the fact that he's moving, has a 40-year-old Laphroaig from 1964, and do I want it?
Dude, man.
That's my Laphroaig story.
That's I don't know what to say about that. I mean, those are those moments in life that, like, boy, you're faced with a tough choice there, man. And like, I get it. I totally feel you. Boy, if somebody said that to me, I wouldn't have the capital to throw down on that either, but man, oh God.
I tell you what, man, it was hardcore buyer's remorse. And here's the bottom line.
Yeah.
There's no way it could be $5 grand good. No way.
I mean, is that,
you know what I'm saying?
$5 grand good?
No.
Yeah.
Well, what I mean is you could get 3 Lagavulin 25s for that amount of money. You could get 2 Ardbeg Provenance for that type of money, which would probably be a better buy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As far as taste.
Right.
I mean, yeah, it's a $40 Laphroaig, yada, yada. But again, when I sold that bottle, I hadn't sold a bottle of whiskey since. Not that I was really ever into that thing, but, if someone wanted one, or whatever, depending on price, I would do it. But I had that much buyer's remorse and that much seller's remorse from the same bottle. And again, I made money on it. A good amount of money on it.
Right. But, yeah.
but that's my best Laphroaig story.
That's a good one. I don't think I can top it, but I do have a story that works a little bit in reverse on that one. And it's the story of a successful scoring of a whiskey at a price that I could afford that it shouldn't have been. So my brother is a big bourbon head. He not a huge Scotch guy, just hasn't got into it, doesn't know a lot about Scotch, but he knows that I like it. And so he periodically goes out bourbon hunting, sends me pictures of Scotches that he sees, and he's like, "You want this? Is this something you would want?" An example was like one day he, sent me a picture of the Ardbeg Dark Cove in the wild, $100. I was like, hell yeah. But 99.9% of the time, it goes the other way. It's like he shows me a picture of a bottle. It's something I already know I could probably get, but it's way too expensive, right? I mean, hey man, like I just saw this, whatever, Ardbeg 22. It's $500. You want it? I'm like, oh fuck, I wish I could get that, right? So one day, he sends me a picture of Laphroaig 28, which is like a limited edition release. I think it was like a year or two ago. I don't know. And of course, like I text him back, yeah, that looks great, man. I'd love it. How much does it cost? Knowing, of course, that what he's going to say is, $700, which I'm going to say no to. He writes back $199. And I was like, $199? And he said, yeah. And I said, buy every bottle he has. And he
said, I said, buy 2, at least. Buy 2.
Buy everyone he's got. He said, he's only got 1. And I was like, buy it right now. And then I text him back and I'm like, you sure? Like, are you sure? He's like, no, man, this is my local shop he lives in a small town, exurbs of Milwaukee. I don't know. Like, this guy's a legit whiskey seller. This is a liquor store. He's like, I don't know if this guy like just knows he can't sell it or like mistakenly messed it at MSRP. He sold my brother a bottle of Laphroaig 28 for $200, and I got it in the mail about 4 days later. I got it sitting behind me right now. I'm saving it for a special occasion, but I ended up selling a bottle of Laphroaig 28 for $200.
Dude, that is a great deal. Unbelievable.
I'll never get it. Like those things never happen, right? Like that doesn't ever happen. It's like,
dude, I found a Deanston 30-year-old cask strength, which was only like 46.7% ABV. But I found a Deanston 30, 2 of them actually, in Indianapolis, Indiana, 6-7 months ago for $2.99. Solid. I mean, the deals are out there, man. When people want to dump stock, they're going to dump it.
But like, man, right? You just have to wonder. It's like, do folks really? I mean, he could have fetched 300 for that easily. The Laphroaig 28. Deanston
could have fetched 5. He could have fetched 500. I mean, if you got that bottle for $500, that's a good deal. 200. That's just stealing the whiskey.
Yeah, I was ridiculous. I mean, it was ridiculous. I was hoping that I was going to hear him say,
Oh man, sorry. When he rang it up, it was $900.
Yeah. I was like, there's got to be something wrong here. I'm like, this guy, I've been in that shop with this guy. There's no way he's selling it at this price. But yeah, man, I got a bottle of Laphroaig 28 for $200.
Oh,
And
I've never had that one, man, but I imagine it's good.
yeah. Once I crack it, you know, it's going to be all bets off. I'm going to want to share this with as many folks as I can. So you'll definitely, I'll definitely plan on including you and getting a sample of it because holy shit, stupid price.
Hey man, and I'll tell you what, if it's just so magic you don't want to get rid of any of it, I get it. I get it, trust me.
I was just dumbstruck. And you know, I think everybody's probably got a story. Maybe some of the folks in the chat have a story like that where they ran across something one day and it was too good to be true, and then it actually wasn't too good to be true, and you landed it. I'd love to hear if anybody's got a story like that. But in the meantime, I am going to I'm going to pour a little bit more of this lore.
Good. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to this one. I have to say, when's the last time you think you had any Laphroaig lore?
Years, probably. I mean, I had it right when it first came out, Because again, I was trying to find something to replace that 18-year-old. You know, I read about it. You know, I heard it had up to 21-year-old whiskey in it. So yeah, I was one of the people that ran right out and bought it. You know, I've done like 190 individual whiskey reviews on my channel, not counting like versus type whiskeys. I think I probably did that like whiskey review somewhere in the 40s. So I mean, it was a while ago, probably 2-3 years ago. So it's been a while since I had it. I mean, again, it's a bottle I've been looking to pick up again. It's just, man, I tell you what, there were a lot of good deals the last year and a half in Ohio. You know, they were liquidating a lot of stock that had been there since 2016. They were selling Linkwood 37s for $450. They were selling Kleinlich Select Reserves for $299. So I bought a lot of those. It was easy to overlook the last couple of years here locally.
Yeah. Have you had the chance to try the Laphroaig 16 that came out last year?
No, I have not. I actually had my coworker was in Chicago probably 6 or 7 months ago, and he saw it. He called me up and he was like, "Hey, I'm going to look this local Benny's in Chicago. Benny's is where he was at."
Benny's.
And he was saying, he goes like, "Look, Benny," he goes, "I got the Cartridge Triple Wood and the Pheno Cast Cartridge and the 16." And I said, "Well, hey, I've had the Triple Cast Cartridge and the Pheno Cartridge. I want those. Buy 2 each of those." And he was like, "Well, what about the 16?" So when I was on the phone, I was at work, so I just, Googled it real quick. I think it was 48% ABV. It kind of seemed like it was trying to take the place of 18, but it was about $100 whiskey. And since I'd already, knew the Pheno Cask and the Triple Wood Cartridge were both going to be good whiskeys, and they were quite a bit cheaper, I actually passed on the 16. But I wouldn't be opposed to buying it. It was just at the time, it was kind of a whim. It was a call. It was the only time I really had access to it. And I passed on it the once, but from what I've heard, it's not the 18. So, I mean, what am I really getting myself into? A better version of the 15 or a lesser version of the 18? That's really not the direction I'm trying to take things.
I hear you on that. I did grab a bottle. I found it. It was like $87.99. And the interesting thing about it, so for folks who might not be aware about this Laphroaig 16, the Laphroaig 16 was like some type of deal Laphroaig did with Amazon where folks could get it in the UK, because in the UK, Amazon ships alcohol. And
isn't that amazing?
Yeah, I know.
Why in the States don't we have that? That's insane.
Yeah, man, it's that states' right stuff, man. Too many states got the ability to create their own liquor laws. It's crazy. So the 16 was 48% ABV. Amazon released exclusive, but then they released a select amount of them to the United States. It's the thing about it that's interesting, 48%, age statement, it's first fill bourbon, all first fill bourbon.
Oh, really? If I'd have known that, I maybe would have made a different choice. It's
all first fill bourbon. And so the thing about that, my general feeling on it was, okay, like looking at all the whiskeys that we've had tonight, including the casters we've had, I don't think it beats any of them, including the 15. It's
Yeah.
the complexity is definitely taken a step back because of the first fill bourbon is so overpowering. That said, I mean, it's decent. And, when we swap some samples, I'll definitely send you one because I think, it's a Laphroaig you haven't had. It's always worth trying. I don't think you need to rush out and get a bottle. You're going to see it on secondary market for $130. I wouldn't pay it. The first fill bourbon style of it it's interesting, but I think you can kind of imagine what the flavor profile is.
Mm-hmm.
It's, and again, not a bad thing, but not something that I think, you need to rush out to the store. I, of course, kudos to them for putting a freaking age statement on it and bottling at 48%. But I do wonder if the 48% bottling has to do with just kind of the quality of those first fill bourbon barrels. If you jack up the ABV a little bit, maybe it's bringing in a little more flavor. Otherwise, not sure. But in any event, we hit the 3-hour mark, so I just want to do a quick roundup and say hello to everybody in the chat. We got 17 folks here still. Great to see you. I'm here with Mike from Mike's Whiskey Reviews. If you are unfamiliar with Mike from Mike's Whiskey Review channel, head on over there, hit subscribe on his channel. He does a bunch of great whiskey reviews, including a bunch of Laphroaigs. So go check that out. We've been doing a little Laphroaig Fest 2020 tasting here in our coronavirus world. We have done a Laphroaig 25, a Laphroaig 18, a Laphroaig 15. Mike's also poured a 10 cast strength batch 11. I have done a Laphroaig Lore. And we've just been sitting here chatting about Laphroaig, sipping Laphroaig, talking about other peated whiskeys. Hope everybody in the chat is doing well, staying healthy, staying safe, and enjoying themselves on this Saturday evening here in this rapidly precarious world that we're living in. So I hope everybody is doing well. We'll raise a glass to you, and we're going to keep going here. Anyway, so with that, I would be interested, Mike, also if you have tried any independent bottlings of Laphroaig. Particularly, there's an Alexander Murray Laphroaig 12 that I've seen pop up here and there. I'd be curious if you've had anything that's been an independent bottling of Laphroaig.
I mean, none comes to mind. And I've seen quite a few. Oh, you know what? I think Dramful is coming out with a 13-year-old Laphroaig this year that I think I'm going to take a chance on. Are you familiar with them at all, Dramful?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, they're kind of hit and miss. They had a 16-year-old Port Charlotte cast strength, like 60% ABV, that was just magic. Ooh. And about 2 bottles of that, man, and really, really good whiskey right there. But then I had like a Bowmore 21 last year, and it really wasn't that great. But they're all usually cast strength whiskeys, and they have a 13-year-old Laphroaig coming out this year, and I think I'm going to try to get my hands on that. But I can't think of a Signatory or a Gordon MacPhail Laphroaig that I've had. Which, I'm a fan of independent bottlers. I have quite a few independent bottlings. It's not bad. It's just Laphroaig, not Laphroaig for some reason.
Yeah, me neither. The one that I've seen the most is the Laphroaig 12, which is an Alexander Murray. I've seen that around in a lot of shops. I've never pulled the trigger on it just because it was like $170. I just thought that was a little bit much for granted it is cast strength, but I didn't pull the trigger. Interesting that you brought up that Port Charlotte. So I did a live, I think a week ago. I got a 14-year-old cast strength Port Charlotte release from That Boutique Whiskey Company. Now they only do their stuff in those, 375s, but I did get a 14-year-old Port Charlotte from them, which was really, really good. But independent bottling would be relatively scarce on the Laphroaigs.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That Boutique Whiskey Company, man, I bought a Macallan 29-year-old or something like that. And it was it 29? I think it was a 29-year-old Macallan. And I got it for like $800 or something like that, or $775. That's what it was. And I was like, man, I stole this Macallan. I can't wait to get it. And I got the bottle. I was like, what is this? And it was like $375. It was 500 milliliter. Wow. I was like, oh, this is why I got it for that price. But I tell you what, that Macallan was excellent whiskey. Excellent whiskey. You know what I think I'm gonna do? I think I'm gonna grab that Port Charlotte if you don't mind.
Do it.
Just want to show it to people.
Yeah,
that's an interesting whiskey. Give me 1 second.
I'm going to grab mine as well. I'll be right back. Where is that? Sorry, y'all. Brief intermission while we potentially pivot to Port Charlotte. I am still sipping on some Laphroaig Glory right now, which, by the way, having revisited this over 2 years, I'm reminded why I put this as fifth on my top 5 Laphroaig whiskeys. I did a video about this a while back. If those who are interested, feel free to go back and check that out if you want to see where I ranked on mine. But this was 5th. I'm really loving this stuff. I'm glad I cracked this bottle open. It's been a while since I've had Lore. Take over, man. Go rogue. All over the SD Laphroaig. Ooh, say more about that, Jason Fisk. I'm not sure. Even Connor said,
all right, man.
50th anniversary of Laphroaig.
So what I got here, man, is I got a dram full 16-year-old Port Charlotte, 60.5% ABV. Oop,
wow. Boy, I don't think you can find an older Port Charlotte than that. Jeez.
I mean, this is my second bottle, man. I've been killing it. And you know what? When I was in my liquor cabinet right there, since we're on peated whiskeys, I grabbed a second whiskey that I want to share with you guys eventually. And this is the youngest Octomore ever released. This is the 10.4 3-year-old virgin cask.
No,
and I got to tell you, this thing right here has changed my opinion about scotches using virgin oak, and as well as what you can get out of a 3-year-old whiskey. I mean, this is just an incredible whiskey for the money. Actually, D2 Silv found me a couple bottles of this and picked them up in Cincinnati for me. And when we got together, he brought them to me.
That's amazing. Yeah. So yeah, just to share it. So this is the Port Charlotte that I had got. This is the boutique whiskey. It's the 14-year-old, 375 bottle, as you can see. Apparently they do all these pretty cool graphics on their stuff. This is the 5 molecules of peated whiskey, but good whiskey. I opened it a couple weeks ago on a live stream. I'm definitely going to check that out. But tell me a little bit more about the bottling of that Port Charlotte, because I'm unfamiliar with them. And I'd be curious if they've done any Laphroaigs.
Dramful?
Yeah.
This independent bottler right here.
Yeah.
Again, this year they're coming out with Laphroaig 13. So
Nice.
they've been around that long. So this Dramful was their 16th bottling, and they only made 221 bottles. This is the particular one's bottle 56, 16-year-old. It's okay. So it's all from one barrel. It's a bourbon barrel. It was filled June of 2002 and bottled in July of 2018. This is bottle 56 of 221, and it's 60.5% ABV. But here are all the particulars right there.
Oh, nice. I have not heard of that brand at all, so that's cool to know about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm pretty sure they ship to the States. I have a buddy who goes over to Scotland every year. But anyway, man, Dramful, again, I've had a few offerings from them. They come in this kind of nice little simple but elegant black little tube.
Yeah.
And they all just give you the basic information right here, and that's pretty much it. And the rest of it's black all the way around. But this Port Charlotte, man, is it's so earthy. You can tell this was Dunnage Warehouse, or that would be my guess.
It's got a little bit of that Springbank funk.
Not really the funk, but you mean that earthiness. It's similar.
Stephen Connor popped in and said, didn't think Dramful has done any Laphroaigs. Yeah, I guess not. But Mike mentioned that you heard wind of a 13-year-old Laphroaig. Yeah.
This year they're going to come out with a 13-year-old Laphroaig. I have it on pretty good authority that's what's going down. I don't think they've actually released them yet, but if you're looking for a non-aged or an independent bottling Laphroaig, that's the first one that really comes to mind as far as anything that's coming up here recently. But Dramful in general, at the worst, they've had good whiskeys. maybe didn't reach my expectation like that 21-year-old Bowmore that I got last year, but this Port Charlotte was an absolute stunner. I mean, I probably have 20% of this bottle left. I bought 2. I just cannot stop from digging into it. It drinks so easy for 60.5 or 60.5% ABV, and it's just brown sugar and bacon. Yeah, so I had that, and just to stay with the same distillery, I have this little gem here, this 10.4 Octomore, just to show you the peatier.
I've not messed around. I've had a couple Octomores samples, but I haven't tasted, I haven't purchased any, most again because I've just found them to be super expensive, but I've heard a lot of good things about most of them.
Oh man, this Octomore will change your opinion on what a 3-year-old whiskey can be. 3 years old.
Bloody, like,
look how dark that is.
Yeah,
natural color.
They must be doing those in small barrels.
Well, again, this is a virgin oak or virgin French oak cask.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So you don't get a lot of virgin casks with single malt scotches in general. You certainly don't get them anything more than a finishing. But for it to go the whole way in virgin oak, extra charred, and both of these are just excellent whiskeys.
That's the 10.4 you said?
10.4, yep. Let me see what it says here in the tube. 63.5% ABV, conceived, distilled, matured, and bottled, unchill filtered, and colorant free. Brooklady Distillery. That'll give you a ton of info. Yeah, it just says 10.4 virgin oak, aged 3 years, ppm level only 88 for an Octomore. That's really low. I've had Octomores in the 200s.
Yeah, to join you, I'm going to actually pour a bit of my Laphroaig Cairdeas Triple Wood 2019, the cask strength. So I'm going to close it up on that one. No reason to leave that one behind. I see it sitting there all by itself.
You know, funny you bring that up because I'm getting a pine note in the smell of this Octomore, and I always got a pine note in that Triple Wood Cairdeas.
Yeah, let me give this a second in quart here.
When I was younger, man, I used to play frisbee golf with a couple of buddies. You know, when we were in our early 20s, we were in college, and there's this reservoir in the north of Columbus where they had a frisbee golf course. So the front nine was kind of on the bank of this reservoir, so it was out in the open. And I don't know if they frisbee golf, but things really had to get a lot of arm into to get it down the course. But the back nine moved into this wooded area where there's a bunch of pine trees, and what you got in your glass right now and what I got in my glass right now, this Octomore, reminds me of walking through that pine after I threw a great opening drive, whether it was sidearmed or overhand. I just got it right in there. I knew I had a good leg up on my competition, my friends, and they were back behind the pines having their second shot. Shanked those two, and we're walking together. Pine needles on the ground, late fall.
I do.
They know I got about 2 strokes on them.
Yeah. I do get a bit of a muskiness to this. I'm not sure if I'm quite at pine, but I'll let it sit here for a little bit.
Oh, I definitely picked up a pine note in that.
Yeah. Wow. There's definitely a mintiness. It's almost like a rye spice mint. But then, there's that vanilla warmth. There's that slight fruity flowing out. Daniel here said Balcones Texas whiskey would change your mind of what a 3-year-old whiskey can be. You had any of the Balcones stuff?
I have not. I'll have to look into it though.
Oh man. Wow. God.
Yeah. SMWS. I should have thought they had some Laphroaigs. Of course they do.
So Daniel, I have
good call, Steve.
And this is something I'll probably have to put in a sample for Mike at some point. The Balcones Brimstone, which is this really, really intense, smoky. It is the most barbecue. It's literally liquid barbecue. It's mesquite smoked blue corn whiskey. It is from Balcones. That is one of the most unique whiskeys I've ever had. I can only have like a glass of it because it is so much like you're eating really high quality punchy barbecue chips. But my God, what a ridiculous whiskey. If you've had that one, Daniel, I'd love to hear. That one's really impressive. It's literally like you're smoking a Memphis style sweet baby back ribs, and it's all in one bottle. Ridiculous whiskey.
Well, I'll tell you what, I just drank that Port Charlotte.
Yeah.
16-year-old. It's like peppery bacon on the palate with like maple syrup or just brown sugar on top. Like there is such a sweetness in that, man. That is just excellent, excellent whiskey.
That's similar. You know, what you're saying there reminds me a little bit similar to my the tasting I did of that Port Charlotte 14. I remember getting kind of a really like briskety, beef jerky meat note out of it.
Yes.
Which is interesting considering the other Port Charlottes I've had. I didn't get that note at all. But well, the MRCO one I did a bit. But so this Laphroaig Cairdeas, the triple wood cast strength. One thing I'm noticing on this is just how rich it is. I didn't quite pick this up as much. This one didn't, you know, and maybe this will be a good question for you too, but like in terms of the Cairdeas line, I guess I've had everything from 2015 up, and my ranking kind of goes, my favorite was the 2017 quarter cast strength, then the 2015, then the Pheno, then this one, and then the Madeira. But I'm, you know, now that this is oxidized a little bit in this little sampler bottle, boy, this is just a really hearty, meaty whiskey.
Oh yeah, and again, man, it's not for being cast strength. It's an easy drinker. You know, I mean, that the smell is not muted, but you know, it takes it full volume without getting aggressive. I guess is the best way for me to put it. To me, it was a very approachable nose. I mean, maybe the first nose, or it could be your first whiskey of the night, nose and palate wise. And for being a cast strength whiskey, that's saying a lot. And a Laphroaig.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, as far as Cairdeas, I've maybe had 3 or 4 ever in my life. I've never had the quarter cast one, and that one sounds incredible.
Yeah,
I had the triple wood. I've had the Pheno. I've had the one with the brown label. I'm struggling to think of which one that was.
That's the quarter cast strength, the brown label.
Okay, then that one was probably my favorite. I must have had that one at some point then.
Yeah.
When you said quarter cask, I don't remember having a quarter cask Cairdeas, but I remember the one that was like 2 or 3 years ago and it had like the brown.
Yep. The brown,
like a dark brown label. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, then I have had that one. And again, that was probably the one I was most impressed with. But again, shared a bottle with somebody, had the whiskey maybe half a dozen times.
Have you had the 2015, the 200th anniversary Cairdeas?
Was that a green label?
Yeah, green label.
I may have tried that one. I don't remember having a bottle of it though. I know that sounds terrible, you know, because I do review most of the bottles I get my hands on, but sometimes, you know, I swap samples with people. People will send me samples. You know, I'll go to whiskey tastings. You know, I have a couple of friends, D2 Silv and the Malton Man Cave, and we get together a lot. So sometimes I know I had tried that green label whiskey. I just cannot remember anything about it. It's as bad as that sounds to say. I just can't remember anything.
Yeah, but that says something in and of itself, right? I mean, if it wasn't that memorable,
right.
That's how I feel about the 2016 Madeira, which was the red labeled one. That one was
okay.
That one didn't do much for me. I found it to be a little bit two-dimensional and overly drying and ashy, but I mean, it wasn't bad. It wasn't one I'd go run out and get again. Have you heard the news about the 2020 Cairdeas?
Nothing.
So the 2020 Cairdeas allegedly is going to be a port. So going back to 2013, which was the portwood, it's going to be a port and red wine cask finish.
Well, isn't port red wine? I don't know much about
it. But it's going to be like 2 wines, right? So it's going to be, in addition to the port, it's going to be another red wine cask. So probably a Bordeaux or something like that. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's the label of it, from what I understand, says port and red wine cask.
Yeah, I mean, red wine's an awfully general statement. I mean, obviously that could be anything,
but who knows?
No, I haven't heard about that. I mean, wine cast finish, even with port, or again, that's another one hit or miss with me. Sometimes it really does a nice job, but Laphroaig usually puts out some solid offerings. I have faith in their pick of casts, I guess is the best way to say it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and this one, I think I gave this a 3.5 when I first tasted it, this is the Cairdeas 2019. I'm not sure if I'd go higher. There's something about it that it's doing a lot of things good, but nothing excellent, I guess is the way I'm feeling about it. Like nothing is really standing out to me in it, but it's all just like delicious nonetheless. So it's like a really good whiskey, but like not exciting in a way that would make me say, wow, this is a whiskey that I think has pushed the envelope for Laphroaig. That said, I was a fan of the triple wood, and taking it up to cast strength makes me a fan of this as well. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I might have to spend even a little bit more time with it now that it's oxidized for a while.
See, I definitely was more impressed with that whiskey than most people, at least most people in the whiskey community. And definitely amongst my friends who were big whiskey nuts. I definitely appreciate that whiskey more than most people. As strange as might be to hear, I was not, again, a huge fan of the standard triple wood. So to me, it was more than just amping it up and having it be cast strength. To me, there were a lot better casts used, especially the sherry casts used in that particular blend. At least that's my opinion. But again, having said that, I know I am probably the biggest fan of that whiskey of anybody I know.
Yeah, I think you might be. Your review made me, I'll say this, like your excitement about it made me excited about it again. I do recall mission accomplished. I did an uncorking video of this one when it came out. And as I do with uncorkings, I always kind of give a preliminary score because I think I'm probably going to go back to it and, after it's oxidized. But I think my preliminary, I think it was like, on my 5-point scale is like 3.5. I think I'm still kind of right there. I will say though, I poured this into a sample bottle. This was the end of my bottle. So it's like 2.5 months oxidized. I like it more now. I feel like that sweetness, we were talking earlier about strawberry notes I think it was in the 25. I'm getting a little bit of that in this, which I think is coming off that sherry cast. I really, I like it. I don't know. It feels, I think for me, it feels a little bit muddled. Like I can't quite, everything's kind of mixed so much and blended so much together that I can't quite decipher things as much. And maybe that's just speaking to its complexity. And I think when I initially tasted it, I think it was speaking more to just like the ABV is so high that the flavors are just not as distinct as I wanted them to be. I'm going to actually put a dab of water on this and see if it again,
you getting any of that pine that I was talking about?
I'm getting more of a menthol, more of a mint menthol, and a little bit of a rye spice, not dill, but like a rye spice than I am pine. Maybe I could see defining it as pine, but I think the way
are you saying you're picking up some Dickel in that?
Say that again.
Are you saying you're picking up some Dickel in that?
No. Rye. Not
is it Dickel rye?
There is a Dickel rye, but not Dickel. I'm not getting any Tennessee whiskey note in it. Yeah, I'm putting a little water on it to see. Yeah, definitely not getting any Dickel. This is a good whiskey, no doubt. I think for the price, probably around used in that $65, $70 range, similar around my parts of the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't sneeze at this at all at that price.
You said you gave it a 3 out of 5. I don't think I'm a lot higher than a 3 out of 5. Like I wouldn't give it a 4.
3.5 out of 5.
Oh, okay. 3.5 out of 5. Yeah. So I probably wouldn't give a lot more. I'm not at a 4 or anything, but yeah, I'm probably 3.8. I don't know what is, man. That whiskey just does it for me.
Yeah, man. That's the beauty of it, right? Like the subjectivity at some point. Sometimes certain things just make. I have a couple whiskeys. This might be an interesting comment to kind of lead towards our closing out, but I'd be interested if there's any drams that you are big a fan of that you find that most folks that are Scotch whiskey fans that kind of sneeze at and aren't big fans of. You got any with those whiskeys that are just like you're always kind of being like, no man, this is really great, and people are like, I can't do it.
You mean besides the triple wood cartridge that we're talking about right now?
Well, I think
dude, everybody tells me I'm wrong. That's okay. Trust me, dude. That's okay. Keith from the Malta Man Cave told me I'm wrong. Dustin told me I'm wrong. People in the comment section told me I was wrong. I like it, man. I don't know why. I like it.
Hey, man, go to the bat for what you love, brother.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. You know what? Never claim to be perfect or the smartest guy on the planet. I'm just telling you what I like. Like the intro to my whiskey channel says, a guy who loves whiskey and has opinions. That's all. That's all I'm guaranteeing.
Right on.
All right. So a whiskey that I like that other people turn their nose up about, but they're whiskey lovers. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
They're whiskey lovers. All right. Give me a minute here. Let me.
Can be bourbon or Scotch. Yeah, I mean it'll take a little bit to think of, but I'm sure there are a few folks that got those whiskeys out there that they're like, I love this stuff, and folks are like, nah, man, that stuff is not great.
Yeah, there's plenty the other way. There's plenty of whiskeys and bourbons that people tell me are great that I'm like, nah, man. That's
right.
That's a long list actually. But yeah, so yeah, I'm just okay. So I'll give you one that I've always been a fan of. That I know a lot of people aren't a fan of, and that is Bowmore Devil Cask, specifically the third version. Ooh. The Double the Devil, the Pedro Jimenez Oloroso mix. You have any experience with that one?
I don't, but I do have some experience with a few Bowmores, and yeah. Do tell.
Bowmore's a lot of miss, man. Bowmore's, I mean, again, I really don't. Okay, because Bowmore has that like plasticky note to it. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
You get that all? Yeah, they have this like this. I don't know exactly how to. It's almost like burnt plastic or melted plastic note that they have. So when you over sherry a Bowmore, like in the Devil Cast series, I like the smoke. It's that nice light smoke that covers up that plasticky note if you put enough sherry into it, especially PX sherry. Where like Bowmore's normally, there's plastic. I can just, it's not enough smoke. It's not for me. But I do like the Bowmore's Devil Cast. That'll be one that I would say I'm a fan of. Let me try to think of another one. Have you ever had Gordon MacPhail Kalila 11-year-old?
Not Gordon and MacPhail, but I have a bottle. My next review, which is posting next Friday, FYI, folks, if you're interested, is a Kalila 11 Berry Brothers and Rudd.
Okay. I'm telling you what, man. I've already reviewed this whiskey. I reviewed it a while back, but I have 2 or 3 unopened bottles. It's Gordon MacPhail Kalila 11-year-old 2004 vintage. And I'm telling you what, man, it is just bananas, but not bananas in a young way. You kind of get that off young whiskeys, and it is a young whiskey, but it's just like this vanilla and bananas Foster maybe, and it's just an excellent, excellent whiskey. I can't talk enough about it. And the other one would be the Blackadder Peat Reek, the Isla Peat Reek. That was another one that I just loved, and people were just like, no one really enjoyed it as much as I do. So, I mean, I kind of put both that Kalila 11-year-old and that 10-year-old Blackadder Peat Reek Isla cask. I put those kind of at the same level as that triple cask cartridge. Like, I just like it better than everyone else likes it.
Sure.
I don't know why people aren't getting hit with it, but maybe someday they will.
Yeah, absolutely. I have 2 that come to mind. One, which I know is going to, which I alluded to a little earlier, and I know will strike people as being like, "What the hell's wrong with you?" Talisker 10. Talisker.
What do you mean?
I just don't get it. The Talisker 10.
You don't like that buttery pepper?
All I get from that is literally like bourbon with a sour pepper note. And I've tried. I've bought 2 bottles of it because I'm thinking to myself, like, there's something wrong. Like, maybe I just got to buy a bottle the first time. Talisker 10,
Sure.
never done it for me. It's not bad, but it's a whiskey that I think people talk about a lot with high praise of being like one of their first intros, peated Scotch, or just one of their like go back to favorites. It's just never done it for me. The other one, which is a little bit more not as ubiquitous as the Talisker 10, is Aberlour 16. The Aberlour 16.
You know, I've never had the I've had the Abuna, the 12, the 18. I've never had the 16. You don't like it at all?
The 16 to me was literally like drinking rosé. 40%
Really?
chill filtered, colored to death. It was like over $100 some, and it was so light and so boring. I couldn't make heads or tails of it. I was just like, why on earth would anybody hold Aberlour in this much praise? I've also had the Aberlour 12. I didn't really love that. I think it's just Aberlour in general. I haven't had the Abuna, which I'm sure would probably change my mind. Maybe as a reason I haven't tried it, but
that's the best one. You got to go cask strength with Aberlour, man. The 18's, you know what I mean? It's a decent whiskey. I mean, but again, it's one of those sherried only whiskeys.
Yep.
Hey, man, so I want to tell you, Steve Connor told me to give you some cask strength Talisker. I'll tell you what, Steve, if you didn't like that, man, I don't know what else I could do. But Steve Connor and I have a lot of overlaps in some whiskey groups.
Oh,
and
yeah,
we are both huge fans of Talisker 25 cask strength, and that is an excellent whiskey. But again, I will tell you, I enjoy every Talisker age statement whiskey. I enjoy the 18. I mean, the current 25 is okay. The current 30 is okay, but I understand that's a different malt than what most people are used to. It is very, very unique.
Yeah.
To me, it's a peppery, it's a buttery pepper, and it's more prominent in the 10 than it is the other ones. You don't get the fruits in the 10 like you do the 18, and you don't get just the massive stuff of the cask strength 25s are in the 10-year-old either. So it's very basic at that 10-year-old level, but to me, I can still recognize the things that I like in it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's what it was for me is like I recognize that it's not a bad whiskey. It just doesn't quite do it for me. And so I was just like, why is everybody so hyping it? It didn't strike me as being as interesting or as complex as a lot of folks felt it was. And I think a lot of people, it was like one of their first whiskeys. And so it was one of those like, what do you call it? Just, something you hold kind of dear as a personal thing, which I understand. But, that's it is what it is.
Yeah, you got to move on, man. Again, man, like I told you, 43%.
The Talisker Distillers Edition, I absolutely love. And I'm working on an 18 right now, which I'm enjoying so far. And it's still not blowing my mind, but I'm enjoying it.
The 18 opens up, man. You got to give that some time with some air in the bottle. A nice berry note comes up, but the 18 isn't. 18 is a fairly overpriced whiskey. It's about $160, $170 here roughly in Columbus. And that's kind of getting expensive for what it is, because I don't think it's a super high ABV. I think it's 46 or 48. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, it's that one really doesn't hit the spot for me. But I'm telling you, man, some of those older cask strength bottlings are excellent whiskeys.
Yeah. All right, Mike. I'm gonna take down this last drop of the cartridge here. And we're getting a little bit close to the 4-hour mark, so I think I'm going to begin to wrap things up here.
Sounds good, man.
Yeah,
this is the longest I've ever gone on live stream. About 90 minutes as long as I've had before, but it's been fun, man. It's gone quick.
Yeah, it's been a really good time, and like I can't imagine. It's hard to keep track of where the time goes. I try to take the food quick method and go as long as I can. He's epic.
Andres is a good guy, man. He's a good guy. I like him.
Yeah, he's the master. I'm but the learner. But yeah, folks. With that, thanks for everybody for swinging by tonight. If you have yet to, do head over to Mike's Whiskey Reviews. Hit subscribe. If you're not even a subscriber of my channel, hit subscribe on that one as well. You won't miss any of our whiskey reviews or live streams going forward. And I hope everybody is safe and well in these turbulent times and still enjoying whiskey at the same time. So it's been real cool hanging out with everybody, and we will catch you next time. Good chatting, Mike. Take care.
Hey, yeah, good to be here. See you,
Yeah.
everyone.
See ya.